Chapter 1332. Yuanying Fruit? Tianyang's expression changed slightly. He stared at the fruit that was floating in the air and emitting a strange light. The fruit seemed to be formed by the power of the primordial spirit. Tianyang used the power of the primordial spirit to sense it. Apart from the core of the fruit, all he felt was the power of the primordial spirit. Tianyang's primordial spirit was recovering at a fast speed under the nourishment of the aura emitted by the yuanying fruit. Tianyang's injury was not an ordinary injury. He was killed directly. If not for the strength of the indestructible bones, he would have died a long time ago. In that kind of situation, there was even no need for the white-haired youth to deliver the final blow, as Heavenly Yang's origin spirit would disperse and die with the passage of time. Ling Yuhan's underworld seal, the 9 heavens, had not only frozen the white-haired youth. At the same time, it had half-frozen Tianyang's primordial spirit so that he would not die immediately. Otherwise, Tianyang would not have had the chance to shout at the heavens' expanse Holy Spirit to save Ling Yuan. Even so, Tianyang's primordial spirit was still in a half-dead state, even if his true yuan and physical body were recovering with the cultivation of the immortal divine body. The yuanying fruit was Tianyang's chance to recover to his peak state. This yuanying fruit is produced in the Western Buddha-blessed land. The Western Buddha-blessed land is closed off and xenophobic. Therefore, it is not easy to obtain this yuanying fruit. Moreover, the yuanying fruit itself is very valuable. Therefore, the starting price is 100 million Reiki. Linglong said. Hearing that, the whole place was silent for a while. A treasure used to recover and strengthen the primordial spirit could be said to be one of the rarest treasures in the world. However, a normal injury to the primordial spirit did not require the yuanying fruit. Those who needed the yuanying fruit might die before they could consume it. However, it was undeniable that the yuanying fruit had a strong healing effect. In the Star Demon Auction House, there were many ancestors with powerful primordial spirit. With this yuanying fruit, they might be able to turn the situation around slightly. As for strengthening the strength of the primordial spirit, this was also extremely useful. The silence of the auction house was only the calm before the storm. 1 billion. Instantly, the lion and tiger sages of the Wild Beast Pavilion spoke up. Even if Tianyang had destroyed the entire Wild Beast Pavilion and required a large amount of resources to repair it, the Wild Beast Pavilion's foundation was not something that other forces could compare to. The nascent soul fruit was worth about 5 to 6 billion Reiki. With the power of the lion and tiger saints, it was possible. 5 billion. However, Old Monster Su wasn't willing to let the Crazy Beast Pavilion get their hands on it so easily. After obtaining the Sichuan sword, Old Monster Su's foundation wouldn't be much. However, Old Monster Su could still continue his disgusting work. Old Monster Su, do you really want to go against my Crazy Beast Pavilion? Seeing this, Lion Saint's face darkened as he glared at Old Monster Su. It was as if flames were about to spurt out from his eyes. 5 billion. The Lion Saint snorted coldly and spoke again, raising the price by 1 billion Reiki. The previous fight for the Sichuan sword wasn't as fierce as this. In just a few seconds, the price had risen to a level that some rogue saints could only look up to. This was also a decision made by the Lion Saint in order to get rid of Old Monster Su's entanglement as soon as possible. However, before Old Monster Su could speak, a voice rang out. 3 billion. I, Su Tianxiao, want this nascent soul fruit. Tianyang had made his move. The level 8 sacred flame would definitely attract countless experts. There might even be great saints, and there might even be spiritual or earthly great saints. In Tianyang's current state, unless the Chaos Origin was fully activated, he wouldn't even be able to defeat a spiritual great saint. If he wanted to obtain the level 8 sacred flame, he had to recover to his peak. The nascent soul fruit was something that Tianyang needed to recover to his peak. Su. Tian. Xiao. However, Lion Sage's eyes turned red when he heard this. The reason why he was defeated by Old Monster Su's 70 million Reiki was because of Tianyang. This Su Tianxiao had directly destroyed the Mad Beast Pavilion, causing the budget of nearly 20 billion Reiki to be reduced to 9.8 billion. Tianyang had indirectly caused the Lion Saint to suffer a loss the first time. This time, Tianyang had personally taken action? 3.5 billion. This is the Star Demon auction. It's not a place for a mountain bastard to put on a show. The Lion Saint roared. At this time, Old Monster Su looked at Tianyang in the opposite box with great fear. Tianyang's strength was too strong. He didn't have much left after obtaining the Sichuan sword. It wasn't worthwhile for him to fight against someone like Tianyang for a nascent soul fruit that he didn't really need. However, the Lion Saint didn't seem to realize that the Star Demon auction house wasn't his protective shield. The reason why Linglong had taken action was only because the information about the rank 8 Holy Flame was already an auction item for the Star Demon Trading Company. In order to prevent her own interests from being damaged, she had taken action to block Tianyang's fatal attack. 4 billion. Tianyang said leisurely. He had just taken a quick inventory of the interspatial bag. There were all sorts of interspatial bags, and they contained a huge pile of Tianyang's spoils of war. The largest was the Blood Soul Supreme Sage's 80 billion Reiki, while the Blood Slaughter Supreme Sage had 50 billion Reiki. The Thunder Supreme Sage only had slightly more than 10 billion Reiki. As for the other bits and pieces, there were probably a few billion Reiki. In total, Tianyang had more than 100 billion Reiki. It was an exaggeration to say that he was as rich as a country. Why would he need to be afraid of the Mad Beast Pavilion, whose budget had been reduced by his killing? 4.5 billion. Just as Tianyang's voice fell, the Lion Saint spoke angrily. He was completely at odds with Tianyang. Even if he suffered a blood loss, he wanted Tianyang to suffer a great loss. However, seeing this, the Tiger Saint's expression changed slightly. "Big brother, we can't beat Su Tianxiao." The Tiger Saint hurriedly spoke. Originally, it seemed that Tianyang didn't intend to destroy the Mad Beast Pavilion. However, if the Lion Saint continued to anger the Tianyang, the result would be hard to say. "What are you afraid of, Linglong?" the Lion Saint said subconsciously. In his heart, there was only anger toward Tianyang. "Linglong won't help us," the Tiger Saint said loudly. The Lion Saint was stunned. As if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him, his heart turned cold. What Old Monster Su could think of, he couldn't. With just one sentence, the Lion Saint understood the cause and effect. The ridicule that was about to escape his mouth was forcefully swallowed. The Southern Demon Auction House respected strength and had the biggest fist. And they couldn't beat Su Tianxiao. 5 billion. Tianyang spoke again. At this time, the whole place was dead silent. Seeing this, Linglong frowned slightly and said in a voice that could make one's bones go soft, "Young Master Su, your price is making me suffer a loss." However, Tianyang was unmoved and looked at the nascent soul fruit indifferently. "All right." Seeing that Tianyang didn't say a word, Linglong sighed. How could there be such an unromantic person in the world? 5 billion going once, 5 billion going twice. Chapter 1333. 5 billion was an extremely huge number. Even if it was converted to gold coins, it was enough to make ordinary countries look up to it. However, bewitching Lady Linglong pouted her lips and her face was filled with displeasure. In her imagination, the nascent soul fruit was a treasure worth 5 to 6 billion. After her auction, it would be worth at least 7 to 8 billion. In the end, she was only left with the lowest price of 5 billion. Even though more than 10 auction items had passed, Linglong was still gritting her teeth in dissatisfaction. "Young Master Su, you're really a little unromantic. Linglong is so nice to you. Why don't you add a few 100 million to make her happy?" At this moment, Li Qingchuan spoke. After witnessing Tianyang's terrifying strength, He could not continue to act wise. In the face of absolute strength, the wisdom of a weakling was just a decoration. It was just like the crazy tattoos on a gladiator's body. Other than looking good, it was useless. Tisk, woman. Yun Xianyuan, on the other hand, snorted in dissatisfaction. She was born in the Xianyuan family. No matter how bad the treatment was, she still maintained a noble attitude. Naturally, she was unhappy with a woman like Ling Long who was charming. At the same time, she was unhappy with Li Qingchuan. If there's no competition, I even want to deduct a few 100 million, Tianyang said. Then, a smile appeared on his face. She doesn't like to waste money. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan was stunned. Yun Xianyuan, who had just opened her mouth to mock Su Yu, also stopped. Then, a bitter smile appeared on her face and she slowly closed her mouth. Lord Su, your nascent soul fruit. At this moment, a handsome and tall man walked into the private room and came in front of Tianyang. At this moment, Tianyang could not be bothered to compete with Li Qingchuan. His gaze turned to the nascent soul fruit. It was the size of a fist and its surface was not smooth. Instead, it was bumpy. However, the aura of the primordial spirit energy emanating from it was enough to shock everyone. What a strong primordial spirit energy! Yun Xuanyuan's expression changed. Even if the Xianyuan family had countless treasures, a magical item like the nascent soul fruit was not something that could be found easily. It's a pity that there are no roots. Tianyang, on the other hand, observed for a while and sighed. If they had roots, they might be able to grow more nascent soul fruits if they were thrown into the Vientiane sky ruins. Tianyang relied on his years of accumulation and almost no longer needed alchemy ingredient. However, this nascent soul fruit, Tianyang had some ideas. A single nascent soul fruit might not be enough, Yang Qi said. However, the great sages have a lot of treasures. Tianyang smiled and waved his hand, tossing the interspatial bag containing 5 billion Reiki to the attendant. That, Lady Linglong said that this nascent soul fruit is a gift for Lord Su, the attendant said in a somewhat panicked manner. No need. Tianyang frowned slightly and shooed the waiter away. I think that woman has her eyes on Master's body. Otherwise, why would she keep holding on to Master? At this time, Yun Xianyuan said angrily, but Tianyang didn't care too much. You are indeed good at gathering information in a trading company. Tianyang pursed his lips and kept the nascent soul fruit. Tianyang had a feeling that this nascent soul fruit wasn't available at the Star Demon auction. It was only added after his arrival. In the hall, Linglong, who was hosting the auction, curled her lips into a smile. 3 days ago, Linglong had vaguely sensed the sage stage sword principle among the thousands of swords, as well as the sudden appearance of the man and woman. Now, this nascent soul fruit was targeted at the severely injured primordial spirit. Interesting. Linglong curled her lips and continued to host the auction. The next auction item, which is also the item that everyone has been looking forward to for the past 3 days, is news of an 8th order sacred flame. Linglong said coquettishly. Hearing this, the entire hall fell silent. Almost everyone turned their gazes to that private room. In fact, the news of an 8th order sacred flame was not very attractive to Chaos Demon City, where the strongest person was only a great sage. However, the reason why everyone was looking forward to it was obvious. Hearing Linglong's introduction, Lion Sage, who was in the public seats, immediately gritted his teeth and made a cracking sound. It was as if he was whipping the corpse beast pavilion. Damn the Star Demon Trading Company! How dare they not let me withdraw the auction item? Lion Sage roared, while Tiger Sage sighed helplessly. I don't need to elaborate on the value of an 8th order sacred flame. Let me introduce this 8th order sacred flame. This 8th order sacred flame is extremely rare. It is not the kind of powerful spiritual flame that is purely offensive. Instead, it is extremely useful for refining elixirs, as if it was born for refining elixirs. It is called the green profound flame. In the next moment, Linglong waved her hand, and a crystal that was burning with a green flame appeared in her hand. Seeing this, Tianyang was stunned. Good news? This crystal contains a seed flame of the green profound flame. Therefore, it also contains information about the green profound flame. After all, if the information is in the Mad Beast Pavilion's mind, the Star Demon Trading Company will not auction something that can be infinitely replicated. Linglong smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded. If that was the case, then it was not bad. If it was really just a sentence, and the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage directly announced the news after the auction to disgust him, then Tianyang would be disgusted. If there was a carrier for the information, then it was reasonable. This news contains all kinds of information about the 8th Order Sacred Flame, as well as the time and location. The starting price is 10 million Reiki. Bewitching Lady Linglong chuckled. However, at this moment, the entire auction house was completely silent. Even the Lion Sage and Tiger Sage of the Mad Beast Pavilion did not dare to open their mouths again. Because of this news, they had already been killed by Tianyang once. If they were to attack Tianyang again, then it was hard to guarantee that the infuriated Tianyang would not overturn the entire Mad Beast Pavilion again. The others could not compare to the Mad Beast Pavilion, and they did not have the protection of the Star Demon Trading Company. Naturally, there was silence. 10 million Reiki. Tianyang slowly opened his mouth. Hearing this, Linglong was also stunned. The existence that had directly thrown out 5 billion Reiki was only willing to offer 10 million Reiki? 10 million Reiki going once, there is no increase. Meanwhile, bewitching Lady Linglong displayed her signature flirtatious smile in an attempt to arouse everyone's desire. However, although the desire was aroused, the courage to go against the existence that had defeated 2 saints was not aroused. After a full 3 minutes, there was still only one bid in the auction house. In order not to waste any more time, Linglong could only glare bitterly at Tianyang's private room before she announced, 10 million going twice, 10 million going thrice. Congratulations to young Master Su for winning the information crystal of the 8th Order Sacred Flame. Seeing this, the corners of Tianyang's mouth curled into the first genuine smile since the battle. Chapter 1334. Tianyang had already obtained the treasure to restore the primordial spirit and the information about the rank 8 sacred flame. There was no longer any value in staying at the Star Demon auction. Tianyang went straight to the Star Demon Trading Company and handed the 10 million Reiki to the supervisor. Then, he took the message crystal and left. None of this alerted anyone. The Lion and Tiger Saints were probably still sulking in the Star Demon auction house. Master, what's recorded in this message crystal? After returning to the station, Tianyang immediately swallowed and refined the message crystal. The massive amount of information contained in it also surged into Tianyang's mind. The location of the green profound flame, as well as the time and origin of its appearance. The green profound flame was discovered a few years ago. Due to some reason, it periodically appears in a place called the Zhongjue mountain range. It appears twice a year. However, even though it has appeared a few times, no one has been able to devour it. There is still half a month's time before the next appearance of the green profound flame, Tianyang said. Upon hearing this, Yun Xuanyuan's face revealed a hint of joy. That is to say, Yuhan will be able to wake up in half a month's time? If we can obtain it, that will be the case. Tianyang nodded slightly. At the same time, a murderous intent flashed across his eyes. He was determined to obtain the heavenly sun and the azure profound flame. Anyone who tried to stop him, he would kill without a doubt. However, the Zhongjue mountain range is not far from here. We don't need to reach the Zhongjue mountain range now, Tianyang said. In the next moment, he took out the nascent soul fruit that he had obtained from the Star Demon auction. One nascent soul fruit alone may not be enough to restore me to my peak state. Therefore, in the next half a month, I will need to refine elixirs. There might be quite a number of pill tribulations. If you don't want to stay by the side and be struck by lightning, you can explore the ruins that Li Qingchuan mentioned before," Tianyang said. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan glanced at Yun Xianyuan, who had been shrouded in a layer of darkness from beginning to end. Other than his voice and strength, nothing else could be seen. "Previously, I was blind. I didn't know young Master Su's strength. That secret treasure is only at the level of high-level Saint Realm. It can't even defeat you, young Master Su. It's completely worthless to you," Li Qingchuan said. At the same time, Li Qingchuan was a little curious. In order to recover the power of the Sage Realm's primordial spirit, one would need at least a minor saint-grade elixir. However, Tianyang's martial cultivation was already so terrifying. In terms of alchemy, he was also a minor saint alchemist? "I will be wherever Master is." "Master, have you forgotten that I can't be too far away from you?" Yun Xianyuan shook her head decisively. What a joke. If she didn't stay by Tianyang's side, was she going to court death? Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. Then, he patted his head and revealed an embarrassed look. "I forgot about this. I'll remove your demon slave mark now." Tianyang just remembered that Yun Xianyuan was not only his maid in name, but in fact, she was even more miserable than a maid. She was a slave who was completely controlled by him. Tianyang hadn't exercised his power as a master, so he didn't think about it. Now that Yun Xianyuan mentioned it, he naturally felt embarrassed. After all, the awakened Xianyuan-yin body played a significant role in safely escaping from the sphere of influence of the Xianyuan family. Based on this alone, Tianyang felt embarrassed to let Yun Xianyuan continue to be a slave. "No, Master's primordial spirit hasn't recovered yet. If you remove the slave mark by force, there might be some side effect. I don't need to be too far away from Master now, so I'll keep it for now," Yun Xianyuan said. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded. Without thinking too much, he took out his Xianming fire cauldron. However, this Xianming fire cauldron is still a little inferior. Tianyang looked at the Xianming fire cauldron that he had brought from the Tianshao Great World to the Xiantian Great World and frowned slightly. Previously, when he was refining elixirs, he only refined some healing elixirs. He didn't need an elixir cauldron to refine them. However, the elixir that Tianyang was going to refine next was one of the best among the divine-grade elixirs. It was a divine-grade elixir, the nascent soul-pregnant elixir. A nascent soul fruit alone was not enough to completely recover. However, if it was refined into a nascent soul-pregnant elixir, it would be a different story. Not only would it be able to completely restore the power of Tianyang's primordial spirit, but it would also leave behind a trace of power while it was recovering. This would allow the primordial spirit to gradually strengthen during the recovery process. If Tianyang could refine the nascent soul-pregnant elixir and break through to the mid-level of the Saint Realm, even someone like Xianyuan Kongming would be nothing more than a snack in front of him. However, the 10,000 pill canon seems to be insufficient. Even the complete version of Banten Simeon's myriad pill scripture in the ancient times was only a comprehensive collection of great saint-level elixir recipes. The current myriad pill scripture only had about 70% of its content. The nascent soul-pregnant elixir was already the best of the best. If Tianyang's strength continued to grow, not only would there not be enough herbs in the Vientiane sky market, but even the elixir recipes in the myriad pill scripture would not be enough. However, for now, I can still refine the nascent soul-pregnant elixir, albeit barely. Tianyang smiled faintly. Then, the true flames of destruction rose. The half-step 8th-level sacred flame instantly enveloped the mysterious underworld fire cauldron. Then, waves of terrifying power bloomed from the mysterious underworld fire cauldron. The cauldron was heated up in an instant. In the next moment, Tianyang's face turned serious. With a wave of his hand, rays of dazzling light flashed from his space bag. With the nascent soul fruit as the lead, thousands of herbs appeared around Tianyang. The Vientiane Sky Market originally did not have the other ingredients for the nascent soul-pregnant elixir. However, Tianyang had killed so many great saints and obtained so many inheritances from the ruins. Apart from the main ingredient, the nascent soul fruit, Tianyang already had 2 portions of the other ingredients. "The 2 of you leave," Tianyang said. Li Qingchuan and Yun Xianyuan nodded when they heard this. After the 2 of them left, Tianyang's eyes flashed with a dazzling light. "Release the power of the Saint Realm primordial spirit. Release the Saint Realm Pill Dao." In the next moment, a terrifying dragon power bloomed. Tianyang controlled the true flames of destruction to burn in the mysterious underworld fire cauldron. On the other hand, Tianyang waved his hand and threw countless herbs into the mysterious underworld fire cauldron. The 9 fire dragons roared furiously. After fusing with Tianyang's Dragon Emperor physique, the refining power of the 9 fire dragons had increased exponentially. It was a new generation of the 9 dragons wheel reversal technique that had been created after fusing with the countless inheritances that Tianyang had obtained. Chapter 1335. 10 days later. Because Tianyang's primordial spirit had been severely injured, the refining of the nascent soul-pregnant pill was extremely difficult for Tianyang. It was not that refining, fusing, and condensing the pill was difficult, but Tianyang had almost used up all the remaining primordial spirit power in the latter half of the refining process. In the end, Tianyang's primordial spirit power could no longer control the true destructive flames. He could only use the immortal fire to replace the true destructive flames to continue refining the pill. Even so, the immortal fire had to consume the primordial spirit power to control it. In the end, after refining the nascent soul-pregnant pill, Tianyang swallowed it without hesitation. After refining for half a day, it was now. Above Chaos Demon City, wind and thunder came together, and it was gloomy for thousands of miles. It was as if a natural disaster was coming. The supreme pressure from the entire world seemed to crush Chaos Demon City, causing countless cultivators in Chaos Demon City to reveal shocked expressions. Some of the weaker cultivators even began to fear. Could it be that someone is going through a divine tribulation? In the Crazy Beast Pavilion, the lion and tiger sages were in disbelief as they looked at the great tribulation of wind and thunder above their heads. The terrifying power contained in it could definitely destroy the Crazy Beast Pavilion that they had just rebuilt in the past 10 days. Back then, they were also geniuses who had become sages with 2 divine paths. However, the divine tribulation they encountered was definitely not this strong. On the other side, in the Lightning Sword sect where Old Monster Su was, Old Monster Su looked at the endless thunderclouds in the sky with fear. "Why do I feel that the thunderclouds seem to have been suppressed for a long time, and now they are erupting?" In fact, that was the case. After Tianyang finished refining the pill, he asked Yun Xianyuan to snatch the essence of the lightning tribulation from the pill tribulation and throw it into the nascent soul-pregnant pill. Then, he swallowed it immediately. The lightning tribulation could not find a target for a while, so it naturally stopped for a long time. Now, the aura of the nascent soul-pregnant pill was released from Tianyang's body, and it immediately targeted Tianyang. Moreover, because Yun Xianyuan had snatched the essence of the lightning tribulation, the great tribulation of wind and thunder this time was much stronger than the one caused by the nascent soul-pregnant pill. Boom! 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 A bolt of lightning seemed to tear the entire sky apart. Next, countless bolts of lightning roared ferociously like giant dragons. He charged toward the heavenly underworld demon sect's encampment. That place is the heavenly underworld demon sect, no, where Su Tianshao is. The lion and tiger sages of the wild beast pavilion were stunned when they saw the direction of the lightning. Then they revealed expressions of ecstasy. "Ha ha ha ha! I knew that Su Tianshao, that bastard, would incur the wrath of the heavens and the resentment of men. He would definitely attract a heavenly tribulation. He's a saint to begin with, yet lightning still fell from the sky. It's obvious that he's committed too many sins. Lion Saint laughed out loud. Tiger Saint, who was beside him, also revealed a smug smile. Let Tianyang continue to be arrogant? This tribulation of wind and thunder that even they might not be able to withstand was a warning from the heavens to Tianyang. Inside the Star Demon Trading Company, Linglong looked in the direction of the lightning in surprise, and a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Beside her, a black-robed man knelt on one knee. Lord Linglong, there's a 60% chance that Su Tianxiao is the Tianyang who slaughtered the Xianyuan family and even caused the Xianyuan family's ancestor to take action. However, Su Tianxiao's height, body shape, and face are poles apart from Tianyang's. Therefore, there's still a 40% chance that it's a coincidence. The black-robed man said. Linglong smiled gently. How can there be so many coincidences in this world? One coincidence is understandable, but with so many coincidences stacked together, there can only be one. I didn't expect that after killing the Xianyuan family, until there were only 2 people left and turning the entire divine central continent and even the Xiantian great world upside down, this guy would come to my southern devil region. Linglong chuckled. Hearing this, the black-robed man also spoke up. Lord Linglong, according to our calculations, if we kill Tianyang now and then look for the Xianyuan family, it's very likely that we'll receive a reward from the Xianyuan family and their friendship. If we don't kill him, there's a risk that the Xianyuan family will blame the Star Demon Trading Company when they find out. Moreover, Tianyang might not be of any value to our Star Demon Trading Company. This great tribulation of wind and lightning just so happens to be, Old Kuan, although your information is good, you're still not good enough to see the big picture. On the other hand, Linglong interrupted the black-robed man without any hesitation. How do you know that the Xianyuan family's friendship will be of any use? Although there are only 2 people left in the Xianyuan family, they have a half-saint emperor. It can be said that they're the strongest among the mortal factions. Their friendship, a person who's about to die will have no value. Linglong chuckled. Moreover, are you sure that the great tribulation of wind and lightning is meant to attack him and not help him? The black-robed man was stunned. At this moment, in the heavenly underworld demon sect's encampment, countless lightning bolts bombarded Tianyang's body. Tianyang was still sitting cross-legged on the ground, constantly absorbing and refining the energy of the nascent soul-pregnant pill. Although the lightning bolts could injure a great sage, they didn't leave a single mark on Tianyang's body. It was as if the lightning bolt's essence had merged into Tianyang's body. This is, Yun Xianyuan was standing closest to Tianyang, so he naturally saw it the clearest. Tianyang had forcefully turned the lightning tribulation that was about to shatter his body into a form of training for his physical body. At the same time, Yun Xianyuan could feel that the gusts of wind were extremely destructive to the primordial spirit. However, Tianyang was still as immovable as a mountain. Moreover, the aura around his body was constantly growing stronger. He was using the lightning to train his body and the wind to train his soul. The wind-thunder tribulation would severely damage one's spirit and physical body. No matter how strong one was, they wouldn't dare to say that they would dare to resist it as Tianyang did. However, not only did Tianyang resist it, but he also used the destructive power to make himself stronger. Is this the world of the strong? Li Qingchuan muttered to himself. He originally thought that the heavenly underworld demon sect master's cultivation was already at the advanced sage realm. However, after seeing Tianyang's performance, Li Qingchuan realized that he was just a frog at the bottom of the well. At this moment, the power of the primordial spirit surged around Tianyang's body. It turned into a storm of primordial spirit. It blocked the lightning and wind from the primordial spirit. Tianyang's aura was also growing at an unbelievable speed. In the next moment, a sword light bloomed from Tianyang's body and shot toward the sky. The lightning tribulation that covered a radius of 10,000 miles was torn apart. In an instant it was torn apart by the sword light. Resplendent sunlight poured down. It was as if the sky was splitting open. Chapter 1336. In the mighty primordial spirit storm, Tianyang slowly stood up. His eyes seemed to contain all the worlds in the universe, but they also seemed to be burning with balls of fire. Sword, come! There was a sword cry. In Tianyang's hand, the great void sword embryo instantly burst out with tens of thousands of sword light. Tianyang's hand moved. It didn't seem to move because in the next second, Tianyang's hand returned to its original state. As for the sky, it was split into four by a terrifying cross. Countless black clouds and the terrible great tribulation of wind and thunder turned into nothingness at this moment. On this day, Tianyang returned to his peak state. Master has finally recovered. Seeing this, Yun Xianyuan was suddenly very excited. Just as he was about to rush up, he thought of something and stopped abruptly. Tianyang smiled gently. With a wave of his right hand, the great void sword embryo was absorbed into his body. At this moment, the entire Chaos Demon City fell into a dead silence. Previously, the terrible power that Tianyang had burst out, although it was only for a moment, still shocked the entire Chaos Demon City. It was as if Tianyang was the only one in the world. The strength that Tianyang had shown when he destroyed the Wild Beast Pavilion was also very strong, but it was still strong enough for the Wild Beast Pavilion's two saints to have the thought of fighting against him. At this moment, Tianyang's strength. It was so strong that the lion and tiger saints could only watch and didn't dare to have the slightest intention of resisting. "Big brother, we'd better not think about revenge," Tiger Saint said with a trembling voice. The only response to Tiger Saint was silence and Lion Saint's slightly trembling body. "Moreover, we may not be able to kill him." At this moment, Linglong smiled gently and said. On the side, the black-robed man trembled all over and couldn't speak for a long time. In Chaos Demon City, countless saints were silent at this moment. Su Tianxiao, who seemed to be strong but brainless, seemed to be a different person at this moment. They only dared to submit. "What we're going to do next is not something you can participate in. I'm also not interested in your remnants. Thus, you can do whatever you want from now on," Tianyang said in the heavenly underworld demon sect's encampment. The primordial spirit storm and the power of the Saint Realm sword will were all absorbed into his body. He looked at Li Qingchuan and chuckled. Hearing this, Li Qingchuan shuddered. In the end, he could only let out a sigh. In fact, the heavenly underworld demon sect and Su Tianxiao had no relationship at all. Instead, the sky underworld devil sect owed Su Tianxiao a favor. Although Tianyang himself didn't care, Li Qingchuan had always wanted to be by Tianyang's side. However, it seemed that it was impossible now. "Thank you, young Master Su." Li Qingchuan clasped his fists. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly and looked towards the sky. There seemed to be a green flame burning in front of him. At this moment, the flame of the green profound flame was jumping continuously. Because in another 5 days, the green profound flame would be born for the second time this year. "Let's go." Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Yun Xianyuan also nodded. In the next moment, the two figures flashed and disappeared from the Chaos Demon City. The green profound flame is a level 8 sacred flame. Although its grade is so high, its lethality isn't very strong. Therefore, the green profound flame is so suitable for refining elixirs. One of the conditions to control the green profound flame is to have a strong primordial spirit. Flying in the sky of the southern demon sect, Tianyang's eyes kept flashing with information about the green profound flame. This information was dug out from the incomplete memories of the vast expanse Saint Spirit. Although it might not be useful, it was still a great help to Tianyang. Although its lethality isn't strong, it's just right to melt Yuhan's 9 underworld power. Tianyang muttered to himself with a smile at the corner of his mouth. Burial Mountain Range, wait for me. The Burial Mountain Range was only 3 million miles away from the Chaos Demon City. With Tianyang's speed, it didn't take long for him to reach the Burial Mountain Range. Legend has it that the Burial Mountain Range has buried countless experts. There are even great sages and saint emperors. Looking at it today, it's true. Tianyang looked at the deathly aura around him and muttered to himself. The Burial Mountain Range wasn't huge. It was only 8,000 miles long. However, the 8,000 miles long mountain range was filled with a strong and uncomfortable deathly aura. If one wasn't careful, the deathly aura would easily enter one's body. The green profound flame is a famous flame of life. Why would it appear in such a place filled with deathly aura? Tianyang was a little surprised. However, with the true flames of destruction, Tianyang wasn't afraid of the deathly aura at all. Yun Xianyuan had the Xuanyin body, and could even control the deathly aura to a certain extent. Naturally, he wasn't afraid. There are already people in the Burial Mountain Range. At this moment, Yun Xianyuan spoke with a hint of hostility in his eyes. In the distance, there were many powerful existences sitting cross-legged on top of the mountains. Although they were far away and couldn't feel the aura of those experts, each of them was at least a peak Saint Realm expert. There were even great sages. An 8th Order sacred flame. Even a great sage would be tempted. It's normal for a great sage to appear. Tianyang, on the other hand, smiled indifferently. However, a great sage is just SOSO. If you stop me, I'll kill you. As someone who had killed 3 great sages and severely injured one, Tianyang really didn't care about great sages. An 8th Order sacred flame could only attract a spiritual grade great sage. Tianyang was an expert who could even severely injure an earthly grade great sage. Moreover, Tianyang was only allowed to win this time. He couldn't allow any failure. An acquaintance? At this moment Tianyang was stunned. The power of primordial spirit sensed a familiar aura. Then, he looked in that direction. On the other side there were about 3 people on top of a mountain. One of them was wearing a white robe and looking at the Zhongjue mountain range with an arrogant expression. Tianyang had interacted with one of the other 2 people before. Tianyang had killed He Yiming and wanted to take revenge. As a result, Tianyang had come knocking on his door and forced him to be Ling Yuhan's sparring partner for several months. It was He Izwa from the Void Mountain. Even the Void Mountain wants to interfere? A look of surprise flashed across Tianyang's eyes. However, he still didn't show the slightest fear. The white-robed youth seemed to have sensed someone's gaze and turned to look at Tianyang. Waves of powerful primordial spirit power surged around the white-robed youth's body. It was also a Saint Realm primordial spirit. Interesting. Tianyang smiled slightly, but he didn't care. He directly ignored the white-robed youth's Saint Realm primordial spirit power. The Void Mountain was recognized as one of the most powerful forces in the continent. It wasn't strange for them to have a few primordial spirit saints. However, the white-robed youth was slightly stunned when he saw Tianyang easily avoid his gaze. How could he look away under the gaze of the white-robed youth's Saint Realm primordial spirit power? There's still someone in the southern Devil Mountain who can catch my eye. Chapter 1337. What? He Izwa was stunned when he heard the white-robed young man's exclamation. He turned to look at where the white-robed young man had been looking. However, Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan had already left, so He Izwa only saw air. Even if he saw it, he would definitely not recognize Tianyang. After all, Tianyang's physical appearance was completely different from before due to his control over his physical body. Even if Tianhao and Xianyuan Qingming, who had left long ago, were here, they probably wouldn't be able to recognize him. You don't have to worry about that, the white-robed young man said indifferently. The white-robed young man said lightly. Hearing this, He Izwa also lowered his head. Not everyone was equal in the Void Mountain. The people of the Void Mountain, who dominated the outside world, were not considered very strong geniuses in the Void Mountain. Since they had parted ways with Tianyang, they had only just broken through to the beginner-level Saint Realm. They had come to the Zhongjue mountain range this time to see the world with the white-robed young man. The other person was only an intermediate-level Saint Realm cultivator, the same as he Izwa. The white-robed young man was the true strongest genius of the Void Mountain. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun. As for his real name, almost no one knew except for the true higher-ups of the Void Mountain. However, the Void Mountain's Shao Zun was a genius who had reached the Saint Realm with the unprecedented 4 holy paths. Now, he had stepped into the human-grade Supreme Saint Realm. If he used his full strength, he could even fight against a spiritual-grade Supreme Saint. This was why the Void Mountain's Shao Zun dared to fight for the Green Ming Fire. With such a powerful talent, there were not many people in the entire continent who could defeat him. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun kept scanning the place where Tianyang had been, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. The guy who had been looking at him had suddenly disappeared? Even his Saint Realm primordial spirit power could not detect that person's trace. Could it be a spiritual-grade Supreme Saint? The Void Mountain's Shao Zun's expression instantly turned grave. At this moment, the intermediate-level saint whom the Void Mountain's Shao Zun had mistaken for a spiritual-grade Supreme Saint found a cave and slowly released his primordial spirit power. They were both primordial spirits, but Tianyang's primordial spirit power was much stronger than the Void Mountain's Shao Zun's. For example, Tianyang could easily see through the Void Mountain's Shao Zun's cultivation was of the human-grade Supreme Saint Realm, but the Void Mountain's Shao Zun still had mistaken him for a spiritual-grade Supreme Saint Realm Supreme Saint. The Shao Zun was still mistaken was a spiritual-grade Supreme Saint Realm. At this moment, Tianyang closed his eyes and pierced the power of his primordial spirit into the ground of the Zhongjue mountain range. The mysterious green flame is an extremely gentle flame. If I can tame it with the power of my Yuan spirit, it will be much easier to refine it. Rays of light flashed across Tianyang's eyes. Immediately after, the power of his primordial spirit trembled, and he instantly found a powerful aura. However, Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly as well. Tianyang's primordial spirit power sensed that the owner of the powerful primordial spirit power was a corpse. The primordial spirit power had not completely disappeared, so Tianyang could tell that the owner of the corpse was a Saint Lord. A Saint Lord died under the Zhongjue mountain range? Tianyang was surprised and continued to search. There had been no news of a Saint Lord dying in the Zhongjue mountain range recently. Tianyang thought that he was not well informed, so he ignored it. However, in the next moment, Tianyang's primordial spirit power trembled again. This discovery completely shocked Tianyang. The underground of the Zhongjue mountain range was tens of thousands of meters away from the surface. There was no fire elemental lava or extremely powerful fire elemental treasures that a normal spirit fire should have. There was only one, and it was like a supreme castle. It was a black castle. In the castle, powerful primordial spirit power trembled. Tianyang's primordial spirit power trembled. Among these powerful primordial spirits, there was one that could make the green deep mystical flame that Tianyang had refined tremble. It was the green deep mystical flame itself. Boom! However, before Tianyang could send the power of his primordial spirit into the castle to communicate with the green deep celestial fire, a terrifying pressure exploded from the castle. In the next moment, Tianyang's primordial spirit power was blasted back. Tianyang opened his eyes. Before he could say a word, he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Master?" Yun Xuanyuan's face changed. He looked at Tianyang and asked, "What happened?" According to Tianyang's calculation, even if he failed to communicate with the green deep mystical flame, the power of a level 8 sacred flame was not enough to hurt Tianyang. However, Tianyang had just adjusted his primordial spirit power. Before he could speak, a terrifying explosion erupted. The mountain peak that the heavenly sun was on also collapsed at this moment. Oh no! Tianyang's face changed. His figure flashed and he flew out with Yun Xianyuan. Looking down at the ground, countless spiderweb-like cracks spread out in all directions with a flat ground as the center. The entire ground was torn into pieces by the crisscrossing cracks. At this moment, the expressions of the experts, who were waiting for the green deep mystical flame in the Zhongjue mountain range, changed drastically. This was because the mountain that they were on was also destroyed by this sudden earthquake. What happened? Heizwa's face changed drastically. He stared at the mountain that had just collapsed. If not for the Void Mountain's Xiao Zun's quick reaction, they would have been buried inside. As for the other experts, their expressions were extremely ugly. Although the Zhongjue mountain range was surrounded by death qi, there had not been an earthquake for nearly 10,000 years. It had been less than 5 days since the birth of the green deep mystical flame, and suddenly there was an earthquake. What did this mean? At this moment, Tianyang's face changed slightly. He thought of the ancient castle that he had discovered underground. The death qi in the Zhongjue mountain range not only spread on the surface but also deep underground, causing the damage to the primordial spirit to be extremely terrifying. The primordial spirit of an ordinary sage state could not penetrate tens of thousands of meters deep. In other words, Tianyang might be the first person to detect the existence of the ancient castle underground. Furthermore, it was very likely that this earthquake was caused by his spying. What's going on? Tianyang gasped. It was just an investigation. Not only did his primordial spirit blast back his primordial spirit, but it also directly caused a huge earthquake? In the next moment, the center of the countless spiderweb-like cracks shook with a loud bang. The crimson ground instantly shattered. Countless rocks and soil splattered in all directions at a terrifying speed. Immediately after, a black ancient castle rose from the large hole that had been created by the explosion of the ground. Under the illumination of the sun, there was no reflection at all. It was as if the ancient castle was where the darkness was. Tianyang's pupils contracted to the extreme. It was not only because this ancient castle was the ancient castle that he had discovered previously. It was also because… Chapter 1338. The Aura of a Saint Emperor. Tianyang stared at the black castle, his eyes full of shock. Tianyang wouldn't be surprised if it was an earthly great saint or a heavenly great saint. Although great saints were rare, there were still some. However, it was different for a saint emperor. A saint emperor was the most powerful existence in this great world. There was only one saint emperor guarding a great state. There might be several dozen great sages, but even if he were to guess, it was impossible for him to guess that there were more than 10 sage emperors. Tianyang knew very well that the white-haired youth was about to step into the Saint Emperor realm and transform his aura. The enmity between them was unforgettable. Through the white-haired youth's half-holy Saint Emperor aura, he could deduce the true Saint Emperor aura. In this dark castle, it was a powerful existence that had surpassed the white-haired youth and stepped into the Saint Emperor realm. Saint Emperor. Tianyang was only guessing, but Void Mountain's Xiao Zun's expression changed drastically as he revealed the origin of this ancient castle. There's actually the aura of a Saint Emperor in this dark castle. Void Mountain's Xiao Zun exclaimed. However, the expressions of countless great saints changed slightly when they heard this. Saint Emperor? A cultivator might not know about Wu Zun or the Saint Realm, but they definitely wouldn't know about Saint Emperors. There was actually the aura of a Saint Emperor in the Zhongjue mountain range? And right in front of them? Kill! In an instant, countless great saints made a prompt decision and charged toward the dark castle. Even if it was just a strand of aura, it was enough for these great saints to risk their lives. Let's go too. Void Mountain's Xiao Zun did the same. He immediately led He Izhua and another Void Mountain traveler into the castle. Tianyang's eyes flashed, and his expression turned cold as he flew toward the dark castle. His purpose in coming to the Zhongjue mountain range was for the green profound flame. If he could obtain the green profound flame, he didn't care about the Saint Emperor castle. However, he had sensed that the green profound flame was in this dark castle. Therefore, Tianyang had no choice but to enter the dark citadel and fight with these great sages. However, before the first great sage could even step into the dark castle, an extremely powerful and frightening aura sent him flying backward. He spat out a mouthful of blood, but he didn't suffer any injuries. At this moment, an arrogant voice suddenly rang out from the dark ancient castle. "Have you finally discovered my castle?" Upon hearing this, everyone's expression changed. There were actually words left behind in this ancient castle? As expected, cultivators are a bunch of greedy people. As soon as he saw the sage emperor's fortuitous encounter, he rushed over without even taking a look. However, that voice's next sentence caused everyone's expressions to turn ugly. No one would be in a good mood after being judged like that. However, even the young master of the Void Mountain did not dare say anything. After all, this ancient castle was very likely a powerful artifact left behind by a sage emperor. If they wanted to take it down, they would naturally have to bear the full brunt of this sage emperor. Such an arrogant personality is very rare among sage emperors, and it's also in the southern Devil Sea. Who is this sage emperor? The young master of the Void Mountain muttered to himself. In the next moment, that voice rang out again. "Do you want my inheritance? Ah, go and find it. This emperor has placed all of my treasures there. I am the World Inferno Demon Emperor." Hearing this, everyone was stunned, and a few great sages were also shocked. The World Inferno Demon Emperor? The World Inferno Demon Emperor, who controlled the green profound flame and could easily refine all the pills in the world. He even forcibly used the gentle flames of the green profound flame to unleash a terrifying power? Back then, the World Inferno Demon Emperor covered the sky with one hand. Even the Almighty of the Divine Central Continent was suppressed by the World Inferno Demon Emperor. Who would have thought that the inheritance that no one found after he died for hundreds of thousands of years would actually be here? Everyone was in disbelief. At this moment, the pressure that coiled around the entire dark ancient castle slowly dissipated. Everyone had no time to be amazed. They immediately used all their skills and burst forth with extreme speed, rushing into the dark ancient castle. The World Inferno Demon Emperor was the most powerful demon emperor of his generation. If they could obtain the World Inferno Demon Emperor's inheritance, they might be able to step into the Great Sage Realm in the future. The young master of the Void Mountain and Tianyang were not slow either. They stepped through the door immediately. However, as soon as Tianyang stepped through the door, his expression changed slightly. "There's a trap in this door." In an instant, streaks of silvery white spatial power enveloped Tianyang, Yun Xianyuan, and everyone else who stepped through the door at this time. In the next second, everyone's figures disappeared. Next, dozens of great sages appeared in the middle of a huge hall. Ha 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 ha. As expected, cultivators are all greedy people who can't control their own desires. Did you rush in directly after hearing that it was me? At this moment, the World Inferno Demon Emperor's arrogant voice sounded again. What would happen if this emperor were to kill all of you? The World Inferno Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Everyone's expression changed when they heard this. The World Inferno Demon Emperor was the invincible demon emperor who was said to be able to burn the entire Xiantian Great World. If he attacked, no one present would be able to survive. A ball of true destructive flames burned around Tianyang's body. Previously, the white-haired young half-holy emperor had killed Tianyang in an instant. If a terrifying existence like the World Inferno Demon Emperor attacked now, Tianyang might not even be able to survive one attack. Ha ha ha. Are you afraid? However, I am still kind after all. Do whatever you want. You want my inheritance? Let's walk out of this hall first. Ha 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 ha. The World Inferno Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Everyone was stunned when they heard this and walked out of the hall. At this moment, everyone realized that there was no one in the hall. There was no way out. It was completely sealed in this place. As expected of the Demon Emperor, even when choosing an inheritor, he is so vicious. At this moment, a great sage snorted coldly. It's just a hall. Do you think it can stop us? In the next moment, the great sage formed a seal with both hands. Streaks of spatial power erupted. It directly teleported them out. However, just as the great sage finished forming the spatial teleportation seal, the spatial power that had teleported everyone here suddenly appeared. In an instant, streaks of spatial blades surrounded the great sage. The great sage's pupil shrank. Before he could say anything, he was directly cut into pieces by the spatial blades. Blood spurted out wildly. Chapter 1339. In the blink of an eye, the great sage was sliced into pieces by the space blades that came from all directions. The sight of blood splattering everywhere was too horrifying. Even though everyone present had killed more than 1,000,000 people, they were all horrified when they saw the great sage being killed in an instant. The great sage was killed without being able to resist at all. It was even cleaner than killing a pig. At least, killing a pig required time to break its neck. Killing a great sage was different. In the blink of an eye, the great sage was gone. A chill ran down their spines and rushed straight to the top of their heads. Everyone's expression turned ugly. Damn it! He doesn't even allow us to teleport. Does the Demon Emperor want us to break through the wall and get out? At this moment, a shirtless great sage of the human grade, who was showing off his explosive muscles, roared angrily. Hearing this, everyone turned to look at him. That person was a famous great sage of the southern demon ghost region. He was known as the demon-shredding great sage, and he could tear his enemies in half with his bare hands. If even the demon-shredding great sage said so, wouldn't it be extremely difficult for them to get out? In the next moment, the demon-shredding great sage roared and charged toward the wall of the great hall. The true origin of a human-grade great sage burst out. Demon-breaking heaven-extinguishing fist. The demon-shredding great sage roared, and purple light shone on his fist. It turned into a powerful fist force and slammed into the wall. However, the wall did not even tremble. It sent the demon-shredding great sage flying backward. However, this time, the demon-shredding great sage was not killed by the space blades. He only spat out a mouthful of blood because of the backlash. Is attacking the wall the way to get out? Seeing that the demon-shredding great sage was not killed, everyone's eyes lit up. The great sage was killed because he wanted to use the space Tao to teleport out. It was a trick. The demon-shredding great sage had attacked the wall, but he was injured by the backlash. He was not killed by the power of the Demon Emperor. As long as they destroyed the wall, they could get out. However, at this moment, someone noticed that the runes on the wall were flashing and lighting up. Everyone was also stunned. In the next moment, they immediately flew up and focused on the mysterious rune. Perhaps that rune was the key to their escape. Tianyang was no exception. He led Yun Xianyuan to one of the walls with runes. However, the runes on it were completely different from any runes Tianyang had seen before. It was completely different from the runes in the Xiantian Great World. What is this? Scribbles? At this moment, a great sage shouted angrily, "What kind of rune is this?" Master Li stepped into the Saint Realm by relying on the way of runes. Even he doesn't recognize these runes? Some of the great sages who didn't recognize what the runes were smiled bitterly when they saw Master Li scolding them. Even the saints of the Tao of Talismans didn't know what these talismans were. How could they, the great saints who were trash in the Tao of Talismans, see through the mystery of these talismans? However, Tianyang frowned slightly as he looked at the rune in front of him. Why do I feel that these runes look a little familiar? Tianyang was stunned. Although he only dabbled in the Tao of Talismans, he still knew what the runes in the Xiantian Great World looked like. They were completely different from the strange runes in front of him. They didn't look very similar to the runes in the Tianshao Great World either. However, Tianyang felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. It was as if he had seen them a few times and had been in close contact with them. Master Li, you have the highest cultivation in the Tao of Talismans among all the people present. Why don't you try to decipher the pattern of these runes? At this moment, a great sage had to lower his head and plead. Everyone had their own specialization. They were a bunch of great sages who hadn't even used talismans many times. Compared to a Master Li who had become a saint in the Tao of Talismans, they would be defeated in seconds. Therefore, even a great sage at the peak of the human grade had to lower his head to Master Li, who was an ordinary human grade great sage. These runes are almost of a different system from the runes in the Xiantian Great World. However, the way they operate their energy is not hidden. If you give me some time, I should be able to make some progress. Master Li was the only one present who specialized in the Tao of Talismans. Therefore, he didn't give up just because he saw a rune that he didn't recognize at all. Instead, a look of deep interest appeared in his eyes. He sat down cross-legged and studied it carefully. The young master of the Void Mountain was completely powerless at this moment. Although he had become a saint with 4 divine paths and the power of his primordial spirit was strong, it had nothing to do with the Tao of Talismans. If he wanted to break through the first test of the world-burning demon emperor, he still had to rely on Master Li. On the other hand, Tianyang ignored the talisman Tao Great Saint and stared at the countless runes. The runes were connected to each other and almost formed a huge formation. Even with Tianyang's cultivation in the Tao of Formations, he could see through some of it. However, I still have to see what the use of this formation is. Tianyang's lips curled up. He knew nothing about the Tao of Talismans, but when it came to the Tao of Formations, almost no one present could compare to him. In the next moment, the divine wilderness heaven spirit art was activated. Dragon patterns on the surface of Tianyang's body shone. Body of the Dragon Emperor, activate. Then, Tianyang punched out. Boom. The terrifying power of the physical sanctification body directly shattered this part of the void and violently bombarded the wall. The runes on the wall also lit up. A terrifying rebound force came, but Tianyang's expression didn't change. He easily withstood the rebound force. The expression on his face was somewhat solemn. Reverse array formation? No, I'm afraid it's not just that. In the next moment, the great void sword embryo appeared in Tianyang's hand. Then, he slashed out with his sword. Sword breaking 9 barons. The power of the Sage Realm Sword Tao erupted. An incomparably sharp sword light fiercely bombarded the countless runes. At this moment, the countless runes also changed instantly. The runes intertwined and moved. In the blink of an eye, they formed a brand new rune sequence. At the same time, Tianyang's sword cleaving 9 desolates was also directly absorbed by this brand new rune sequence. What the hell? Seeing this, Tianyang's expression immediately turned ugly. These runes could change? Originally, Tianyang planned to test the structure of this rune array and then directly destroy it with a wave of reverse formation. But now, let's try again. Tianyang snorted coldly. On his right fist, streaks of true flames of destruction burned. In an instant, he punched out. Boom! A deafening explosion erupted and resounded throughout the entire main hall. However, Tianyang's pupils completely contracted. Clearly, the rune sequence didn't change at all. He couldn't even see any signs of the rune sequence being activated. However, the true flames of destruction that he blasted out, they were actually swallowed by the runes themselves. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. In his mind, he seemed to have remembered something. He must have seen this strange rune that could swallow flames somewhere before. Yun Xianyuan, who was beside him, noticed the change in Tianyang and asked with concern, "What happened?" Hearing Yun Xuanyuan's question, Tianyang's body shook. Looking at the true flames of destruction that were completely swallowed, a light flashed in his mind. He remembered. Chapter 1340. The strange runes could devour flames. Moreover, the ability to devour flames was not formed by the rune sequence but by the runes themselves. Tianyang had indeed seen this kind of rune before, and more than once. Luoluo, Tianyang whispered in his heart. At this moment, by Luoluo, who had been in a deep sleep in the heavenly pagoda that Tianyang had transferred to the Vientiane sky ruins, woke up. Father! Ever since Tianyang had left the Tianshao Great World, he had been curious about Bai Luoluo's condition. Bai Luoluo had never been curious about the outside world, nor had she made any request. She had only suddenly appeared in the Tianshao Great World to help Tianyang block the attack of the spirit of demonic qi. Other than that, she would remain in a deep sleep as long as Tianyang did not wake her up. At first, Tianyang had thought that it was the aftereffects of the celestial wolf walker freezing by Luoluo for so many years. However, so many years had passed, how could there be any aftereffects? These symptoms had worsened after Tianyang had left the Tianshao Great World. As long as Tianyang did not wake her up, she would remain in a deep sleep. Even when Tianyang had transferred the heavenly pagoda to the Vientiane sky ruins, such a huge commotion had not awakened by Luoluo. However, if Tianyang woke her up, she would wake up full of vitality. Moreover, every time she woke up after a period of time, her aura would become stronger and stronger. This time, it had been about 3 years since she had woken up. In these 3 years, by Luoluo's aura, she had already stepped into the beginner stage of the half-saint realm. She could become stronger even in her sleep. Tianyang was speechless about this, but Tianyang was quite happy that his daughter was strong. Luoluo, come out for a moment. Tianyang smiled as he recalled how speechless he had been when Bai Luoluo had suddenly called him father, and the warmth he had felt when he had taken care of Bai Luoluo with Lingyuhan. Tianyang couldn't help but smile. Daddy, why did you call Luoluo? With a flash of white light, Bai Luoluo walked out of the Vientiane sky ruins. At this moment, Tianyang suddenly realized that it wasn't just his cultivation that had become stronger. Bai Luoluo's body also underwent a great change. When she first saw Bai Luoluo was only about 1.23 meters tall and looked like she was only 7 or 8 years old. Now, Bai Luoluo was at least 1.4 meters tall, and she was probably around 11 or 13 years old. Although Bai Luoluo hadn't changed at all compared to the changes in the outside world, Tianyang was able to tell right away after not seeing her for so long. However, while Tianyang was interacting affectionately with his daughter, Yun Xianyuan froze on the spot as if she had been struck by lightning. Daughter? Yun Xianyuan found it hard to imagine that Tianyang, who looked like a decent person, actually had a daughter in secret. She had followed Tianyang for so long, but she had never seen Tianyang call Bai Luoluo out. This wasn't the main point was, when did Tianyang and Lingyuhan have a daughter? Oh, I forgot to introduce her. This is my daughter, Bai Luoluo. Only then did Tianyang remember that there was still Xianyuan Yun beside him. He immediately chuckled and said, When did you have a daughter? Yun Xianyuan stuttered as she stared at Tianyang in disbelief. When did you have a daughter? Tianyang was taken aback, and then a trace of nostalgia appeared on his face. More than 10 years ago. Xianyuan Yun's face turned pale when she saw that. Bai Luoluo also looked like she was in her teens. Lingyuhan didn't even tell me that she actually had a daughter. Because she was too emotional, Xianyuan Yun didn't even think and directly opened her mouth. Tianyang and Lingyuhan even had a daughter? This fact was too shocking, to the point that Xianyuan Yun had forgotten her own identity. Tianyang was taken aback. Luoluo isn't Yuhan's. Huh. Yun Xianyuan was stunned, and the way she looked at Tianyang changed. Someone entrusted Luoluo to me. Tianyang didn't explain too much. He held Bai Luoluo's hand and walked in front of the wall. Luoluo, do you recognize these runes? Tianyang smiled, but he didn't have much hope in his heart. When Bai Luoluo used these runes, she didn't seem to have any impression of them. It might be some kind of talent. Tianyang was too agitated, so he let Bai Luoluo come out. I recognize them. However, Bai Luoluo's happy shout startled Tianyang. These are all delicious. Bai Luoluo broke free from Tianyang's hand and stretched her hand toward the wall filled with runes. Wait a minute. Tianyang instantly became anxious when he saw this. These walls were even able to resist his sword splitter. If they possessed offensive properties, then even if Bai Luoluo was an initial rank half-saint, she wouldn't be able to resist a single attack from the talisman. However, before Tianyang could do anything, Bai Luoluo touched the runes. Then she pulled with force. A piece of rune was broken off. Tianyang was dumbfounded. In the next moment, Bai Luoluo opened her mouth and stuffed the runes into it. Crunch, crunch. A hair-raising sound rang. In less than 3 seconds, the rune was swallowed into Bai Luoluo's stomach. Tianyang's expression changed. The power of his primordial spirit clearly sensed that after he swallowed the rune, the primordial spirit's power had clearly changed. Luoluo's power had increased a little. Although it was hard to detect, she had indeed become a little stronger. Wow! Delicious! However, Bai Luoluo didn't notice it at all. She pulled with force and pulled out another rune. Then, Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan watched in disbelief, as Bai Luoluo ate and pulled out a small portion of the runes on the wall and swallowed them. Why was it a small portion? Because Bai Luoluo was only 1.4 meters tall. Compared to the 10-meter tall wall, it was only a small portion. The ones above are delicious too. Daddy, Luoluo wants them. At this moment, Bai Luoluo jumped with force but didn't touch the higher runes. She immediately became anxious. It seemed that Bai Luoluo knew that these runes were edible, but didn't know that she could fly with her power. Daddy can't catch these delicious things. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled bitterly. Bai Luoluo's big meal just now had directly swallowed all the runes in the square that was 1.4 meters wide and 1.4 meters tall. Tianyang had also tested it. The defensive power of the wall came from these runes. Without the runes, the defensive power of the wall itself couldn't even withstand a punch from a Dao Fire Realm cultivator. Daddy can't catch them? This is for you. You can catch them if I give them to you. At this moment, Bai Luoluo jumped in front of Tianyang. A white flame had unknowingly burned on her hands. Then, she jumped up and slapped the back of Tianyang's hand with both hands. The flame was transmitted to Tianyang's hands. And in Tianyang's perception. In an instant, those runes turned from formless lines into tangible existences. He reached out and grabbed. A rune was caught in his hand. Daddy is so awesome. Seeing that the runes in the place where she couldn't reach were easily caught by Tianyang, Bai Luoluo immediately cried out in excitement. Tianyang looked at his hands with a solemn expression. He clearly felt that when the white flame approached, some of the runes instantly trembled and lost their ability to move freely. They could only be captured by the white flame. Tianyang also noticed that these runes in his hands were completely different from those in Bai Luoluo's hand. The runes in Bai Luoluo's hands were solid, as if they were real. However, the runes in Tianyang's hands were like liquid and were rapidly evaporating. Tianyang hurriedly handed this rune to Bai Luoluo. Just as he was about to grab a pile of runes for Bai Luoluo to eat, a greedy voice sounded from the side. This little guy can eat these runes? Chapter 1341. Tianyang's face darkened when he heard this. Yun Xianyuan, who was standing next to him, immediately released streams of mysterious energy. Although Yun Xianyuan didn't know what was going on with Bai Luoluo, he was still captivated by her cuteness. Now, someone actually dared to snatch Bai Luoluo away? Yun Xianyuan would never let this go. What? A piece of trash who doesn't seem to have any power, a piece of trash who doesn't even dare to show his face, dares to go against me, the demon-shredding Grand Sage? The person who spoke was the demon-shredding Grand Sage, who was the first to punch the wall of runes and was sent flying by the rebound force. He was the demon-shredding Grand Sage, but he couldn't even break a small wall. He was even sent flying by the wall and spat out blood. The demon-shredding Grand Sage was one of the most powerful beings in the southern demon-shredding Grand Sage's territory. However, if he used brute force to attack the wall, he might not be able to break it even if he was given 10,000 years. He happened to see Bai Luoluo devouring runes on Tianyang's side. Naturally, he wanted to snatch her away. If he could get Bai Luoluo over, wouldn't that mean that the wall wouldn't be able to stop the demon-shredding Grand Sage at all? This way, he would be able to step out of the Great Hall first. He might even be able to obtain the inheritance of the Inferno Demon Emperor. As for Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan, who were standing next to Bai Luoluo, the demon-shredding Grand Sage naturally ignored them. Even if he wasn't the strongest here, he was still one of the strongest. It would be a piece of cake for him to deal with two people whose auras he couldn't sense and who were pretending to be mysterious. If you know what's good for you, hand over that little girl. Speaking of which, I've lived for hundreds of thousands of years. I've tasted all kinds of women, but I've never tasted a teenage girl. You two hand her over to me. Maybe I'll return her to you after I'm done with her. Ha 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 ha. The demon-shredding Grand Sage laughed loudly. This was the southern demon-shredding Grand Sage. As long as he had the power, he could do anything he wanted without fear. With the demon-shredding Grand Sage's power, if he were to find someone else, that person would probably submit to his power and kneel on the ground and beg for mercy. Unfortunately, the demon-shredding Grand Sage had kicked an iron plate this time. Dad, what is he saying? Even Bai Luoluo could sense the murderous aura emanating from the demon-shredding Grand Sage and the sinister smile on his face. The expression on his face gradually turned into one of fear. Luoluo, be good. This uncle is just looking for death. Your big sister Yun will kill him immediately. Seeing Bai Luoluo's pitiful appearance, Yun Xuanyuan's heart instantly ached. He rubbed Bai Luoluo's clean and pure white hair and said. Afterwards, Yun Xianyuan was about to make a move. But, as soon as he lifted his head, he saw Tianyang walk out with a cold expression. One of Tianyang's reverse scales was Ling Yuan. The other was Bai Luoluo. Or they could be collectively referred to as family. What's with that scowl? Kneel down and kowtow to me. At the same time, the demon-shredding Grand Sage saw Tianyang's cold face. He felt uncomfortable and growled in a low voice. However, at this moment, Tianyang made his move. He glanced at the demon-shredding Grand Sage indifferently and waved his hand. It was the demonic flame that he obtained from the great Lord of Heaven. The demonic flame burned fiercely and in an instant, it burned the demon-shredding Grand Sage's body. You still want to resist? Seeing this, the demon-shredding Grand Sage laughed sinisterly. He released his true yuan in an attempt to extinguish the demonic flame. It seems like he's a newbie from the southern Devil Ghost region or a country bumpkin from some remote mountain. He doesn't even have the reputation of the demon-shredding Grand Sage. What the hell is this? However, to the demon-shredding Grand Sage's surprise, his true yuan was completely ineffective against the black flame on his body. His expression changed abruptly and in the next moment, the demon-shredding Grand Sage lifted his head. A murderous look flashed across his eyes and he charged towards Tianyang. I don't care what the hell this is. As long as I kill you, everything will be fine. The demon-shredding Grand Sage roared angrily. In the next moment, the muscles on his arms expanded explosively and turned into a giant arm that was 10 feet long and wide. Gigantic spirit-killing fist. As he punched, It was as if the legendary gigantic spirit god had descended upon the world. However, Tianyang's expression was still as cold as ever. He waved his right hand. In midair, a huge palm was instantly formed. Seeing this, the demon-shredding Grand Sage was stunned. In the next moment, the giant palm descended from the sky. Boom! The demon-shredding Grand Sage was smashed into a bloody pulp. In an instant, he was killed. As for the gigantic spirit avatar behind the demon-shredding Grand Sage, it slowly dissipated as it lost the support of its true yuan. Tianyang stretched out his hand and the demon-shredding Grand Sage's primordial spirit appeared in his hand. Before the demon-shredding Grand Sage could utter a single word, Tianyang squeezed his primordial spirit. Boom! Fragments of the primordial spirit flew everywhere. The demon-shredding Grand Sage was completely dead. Only 3 seconds had passed since the start of the battle. Seeing this, the faces of the people who had been watching the battle were filled with fear. As one of the strongest people in the dark ancient castle, the demon-shredding Grand Sage naturally attracted many people's attention. In the end, in less than 3 seconds, the demon-shredding Grand Sage had turned into a pool of blood. Tianyang, on the other hand, was expressionless as he threw the demon-shredding Grand Sage's space bag into the Vientiane sky market. "All right." Tianyang turned around and said with a warm smile on his face. To Tianyang, killing a great sage in 3 seconds was nothing. Even Yun Xianyuan, who had seen Tianyang suppress the earthly great sage Xianyuan Kongming, was shocked at this moment. Disregarding everything else, just this efficiency alone was enough to shock him. Wasn't this a little too fast? In fact, Tianyang's true yuan had broken through to the intermediate saint realm. His primordial spirit had also made a breakthrough. His physical strength had also strengthened a lot, and he was close to the great success of the body of the Dragon Emperor. At this moment, he was equivalent to Tianyang, who had used the sky-devouring secret skill when he had attacked the Xianyuan family. What was so strange about killing a great sage in seconds? It didn't take him long to kill the Thunder Great Sage. Tianyang had become a saint with the 9 Saints path, and the Chaos Origin had brought him invincible among his peers. He was also invincible among those of a higher level. Then, Tianyang reached out and waved his hand. The white flame given by Luoluo burned brightly and directly plucked out countless runes. Luoluo's small hands couldn't even hold it. All right. These are enough for Luoluo to eat." Seeing that Tianyang still wanted to pluck more, Luoluo was anxious and ate the hundreds of runes in her hand. Then, she jumped and took the white flame back from Tianyang's hand. Tianyang suddenly realized that he had lost control of those runes. "I'm full. Luoluo is going to sleep," Luoluo said happily. However, in the next second, Luoluo closed her eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Seeing this, Yun Xianyuan, who had never seen Luoluo in such a state, became anxious. Tianyang, on the other hand, smiled bitterly. Luoluo could still sleep even after being called out. "It's okay, Luoluo likes to sleep." After safely putting Luoluo back into the Vientiane sky ruins, Tianyang turned his head and looked at the wall. A clean and neat punch was thrown out. Boom! The wall, which had lost the protection of the runes, exploded instantly. Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan walked out of the hall. At the same time, the Vientiane divine flame was circulating in Tianyang's body. Chapter 1342. Just as Tianyang killed the demon-shredding Grand Sage, broke through the wall, and arrived outside the hall, a strange black hole suddenly appeared in front of Void Mountain's Shao Zun amidst the countless runes. The black hole gradually expanded, and the surrounding runes were forced out of their original positions by the black hole. "Let's go." Void Mountain's Shao Zun chuckled. Hearing this, the mid-level sage and He Izwo were already shocked beyond words. Grandmaster Li was still studying the laws and essence of these runes, but Void Mountain's Shao Zun had directly opened a door by force. Because the hall was extremely spacious, Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan had chosen a position that was directly opposite Void Mountains, Shao Zun and the other two. Neither Tianyang nor Void Mountains, Shao Zun noticed that the other party had already opened the door. Yes. It seems that the inheritance of the world-burning demon emperor must be Lord Shao Zun's. The mid-level sage laughed loudly. Void Mountain's Shao Zun's smile didn't change, and he stepped into the black hole. After the three of them left, the black hole slowly closed. However, there was no way to restore the wall whereby Luoluo had eaten a large number of runes. It would depend on when the remaining people would discover the exit left by Tianyang. Although I already sensed it in the outside world, I didn't expect it to be so strong after stepping into the dark ancient castle, Tianyang exclaimed in surprise. If the surroundings were compared to the night sky, and the spiritual fire was compared to the stars. Previously, Tianyang had sensed an insignificant speck of starlight in the endless night sky. Now, Tianyang only felt like he was observing a blazing sun. Master, don't you need any other martial techniques and elixir hall? Yun Xianyuan was puzzled. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression didn't change. He directly flew out and headed straight for the location of the green deep mystic fire. Are martial techniques, elixirs, and divine weapons more important than a strand of Yuhan's hair? After refining the green deep mystic fire, Ling Yuhan would only recover from being frozen and might not be able to wake up. However, Tianyang could not wait any longer. As long as the Ling Yuhan's power returned to Ling Yuhan's body, Tianyang had 10,000 ways to wake Ling Yuhan up. Once the boundless 9 transformations was unleashed, the current Tianyang was only a hair's breadth away from the 6th transformation of the boundless 9 transformations. His explosive speed made Yun Xianyuan almost unable to catch up. However, Yun Xianyuan felt a little sad when he heard this. Shao Zun, what should we do next? The Medicinal Pill Hall or the Martial Skills Hall? On the other side, a mid-level saint from Void Mountain said excitedly. They had only come out with Lord Shao Zun, but they had encountered the world-burning demon emperor's inheritance. If not for the fact that he had to follow the Void Mountain's Shao Zun, this mid-level sage could not wait to explore the martial technique hall. The legendary world-burning demon emperor was a saint emperor who excelled in both alchemy and martial arts. Although he had never reached the saint emperor realm in alchemy, he could still be called the top alchemist today. No. However, to the mid-level sage's surprise, the Void Mountain's Shao Zun shook his head. Even if we don't go to the Medicinal Pill Hall, the Martial Skills Hall is still very valuable. The mid-level sage did not understand. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun said indifferently. Have you forgotten what our original goal was? The green deep mystic fire. He said quickly, but there was some hesitation on his face. But the green deep mystic fire might not be more valuable than the Saint Emperor martial skills. However, if the world-burning demon emperor really left behind an inheritance, then it's most likely in the green deep mystic fire. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun smiled. Realization dawned on He and Yun Xianyuan. Although I can't sense it clearly, it's in that direction. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun said. The two of them nodded heavily. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun grabbed the two of them and disappeared into the void. His actual body, on the other hand, was charging towards the location of the green profound flame at lightning speed. Soon, Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan arrived at the depths of the dark ancient castle. However, to Tianyang's surprise, the green deep mystic fire was not stored in a hall. Instead, it was placed right in the middle of an altar, right in the middle. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. There must be a reason for this abnormality. The world-burning demon emperor was the demon emperor who dominated the southern demon ghost region. How could he leave his spiritual fire here for others to take? At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. The three from the Void Mountain immediately appeared in front of Tianyang. It's you. The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun's expression changed when he saw Tianyang. A rare look of fear appeared on his face. The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun also had a deep impression of Tianyang. His sage primordial spirit could vaguely sense that even the sage primordial spirit he was so proud of trembled in fear of Tianyang's power. Now that they were fighting for the green deep mystic fire, this meant that Tianyang would definitely be his opponent. Does Lord Xiao Zun know someone? Heizhua and Yun Xuanyuan's expressions changed when they heard this. The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun rarely went out. Other than the people of the Void Mountain, no one would know him. However, if there was someone, it would definitely be a super genius on the same level as the Void Mountains, Xiao Zun. No. The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun shook his head and looked at Tianyang gravely. I met this person for the first time not long ago. However, this person's primordial spirit doesn't seem to be inferior to mine. The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun said. Heizhua and Yun Xuanyuan's expressions changed when they heard this. The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun was an essence soul sage whose primordial spirit had become a sage. Now, he was even a human great sage. The power of his primordial spirit was much stronger than when he had just become an essence soul sage. Even the Void Mountains, Xiao Zun was wary. How could he be inferior? Could the power of this person's primordial spirit have reached the advanced stage of the sage state? Or even the sage state? Master, you know him? At this moment, Xianyuan Yun also noticed Tianyang's reaction. Her lips curled into a smile as she asked curiously. She had no impression of these three people at all. May I know your name? The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun spoke first. I am the Void Mountains, Xiao Zun. Xianyuan Yun's expression instantly changed when she heard this. The Void Mountain was recognized as the strongest force in the Xiantian Great World. The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun could be said to be the only candidate to inherit the Void Mountain in the future. The white-robed youth in front of her was actually the future successor of the Void Mountain. Su Tianxiao. Tianyang couldn't underestimate the Void Mountains, Xiao Zun too much, so he chuckled. The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun pondered for a while. He couldn't remember Su Tianxiao at all. Just as he was about to say something, he was interrupted by wild laughter. Ha 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 ha. There are still people in this world who know what's good for them. You guessed right. The inheritance of the world Inferno Demon Emperor is in the green profound fire. It was the voice of the world Inferno Demon Emperor. Chapter 1343. World Inferno Demon Emperor. Tianyang had not expected that the World Inferno Demon Emperor would appear at the location of the green deep mystical fire. Logically speaking, the World Inferno Demon Emperor's voice should have appeared at a special place of inheritance. That was why Tianyang had gone straight to the green deep mystical fire. In the end, it seemed that he had hit the jackpot and encountered the inheritance of the World Inferno Demon Emperor? God had taken pity on him. He really only wanted the green deep mystical fire. Ha 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 ha. The others have probably already gone to some *T Elixir Hall and Martial Skills Hall. There is indeed something there, but the strongest is only an earthly great saint. If they knew, they would probably die of anger on the spot. Ha ha ha. The World Inferno Demon Emperor laughed loudly. His laughter was extremely wild and arrogant. It was as if those who had gone to the Elixir Hall and Martial Skills Hall were insignificant ants not worth mentioning. Upon hearing that, Tianyang's expression changed. He silently mourned for those who had chosen the wrong place. It was just a choice, and he missed out on the inheritance of the world's scorching demon emperor, a peerless demon emperor from hundreds of thousands of years ago. Then, which one of you wants my inheritance? At that moment, the World Inferno Demon Emperor's voice sounded again. Then, the green deep mystical fire burned fiercely in the air. It turned into a human figure. The figure was tall and about 1.89 meters. He wore a ferocious crimson armor. Because his face was formed by the green deep mystical fire, only a silhouette could be seen. However, this silhouette could also reveal the handsomeness of the World Inferno Demon Emperor when he was alive. The World Inferno Demon Emperor's lips curled into a smile as his unruly and evil gaze swept across Tianyang, the World Inferno Demon Emperor and the others. Or do all of you want it? Wait! At this moment, the Void Mountain's Shao Zun spoke, his face full of fear and solemnity. Are you the remnant soul of the world-burning Demon Emperor or someone else? Hearing this, the Inferno Demon Emperor was stunned. Then, a proud look appeared on his face. Of course I'm the Inferno Demon Emperor. Speak. Which of you is it that needs my inheritance? The World Incineration Demon Emperor said proudly. His words were filled with an unquestionable dominance. However, Tianyang's brows furrowed slightly as he instinctively felt that something was amiss. At this moment, Yun Xianyuan and He Izhua spoke at the same time. It wasn't me. Oh! Hearing this, the World Inferno Demon Emperor raised his eyebrows. You're quite something. Then, that's easy. Only 2 of you are left. If you want to acquire my succession, let's have a duel. I will only give my power to those who have it. The World Inferno Demon Emperor laughed heartily. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes flashed with a solemn look. He remembered that before the power of Primordial Spirit discovered the dark ancient castle, he had discovered the corpse of a sage. That corpse had appeared not far from the dark ancient castle, and it did not look like it had died for long. Tianyang naturally did not believe that it had nothing to do with the World Inferno Demon Emperor. I'm sorry, Brother Su. It's better to give the Demon Emperor's inheritance to the Void Mountain. At this moment, the Void Mountain's Shao Zun roared and suddenly attacked. Terrifying void blades shot out. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. His thoughts were instantly interrupted. He snorted coldly and waved his right hand. Demonic flames burned. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun was the person with the highest status in the Void Mountain, second only to the Master of the Void Mountain. He might even know about him, who was wanted by the Xianyuan family. In that case, he could not easily let the Void Mountain's Shao Zun know his identity. Demonic flame explosion. Tianyang roared in a low voice. Countless demonic flames spurted out and condensed into fireballs in the air. Then, there was an unparalleled explosion. The countless blades that contained powerful void power were destroyed by the explosion. At this moment, Tianyang used the Heavenly Expanse 9 transformations. His figure flashed and he appeared in front of the Void Mountain's Shao Zun. He did not show any mercy and directly punched. Dragon King's unparalleled fist. Boom! This punch fiercely bombarded the Void Mountain's Shao Zun's face. However, strangely, Tianyang did not feel like he had hit flesh at all. Instead, his right fist felt as if it had hit a piece of mud. Boom! Dragon power erupted. Tianyang withdrew his right fist. At the place where the Void Mountain's Shao Zun had been, it had been covered by the Void distortions. The Void Mountain's signature move, the Void Body Tempering Art? Interesting. Tianyang snorted coldly and quickly withdrew his hand. He looked at the Void Mountain's Shao Zun, who had suddenly appeared in the distance, with a solemn expression. The Void Mountain was the top sect in the world. There must be a Saint Emperor in it. The Void Body Tempering Art was also a powerful technique of the Saint Emperor realm. It cultivated both Tao and body and was extremely powerful. Moreover, Tianyang could see that the Void Mountain's Shao Zun in front of him was also on the path of becoming a saint with 3 vital essences. The primordial spirit and vital essence had become a saint. He was only a step away from becoming a saint with his physical body. As for the other 2 great paths, the Void Body Tempering Art is this powerful. Ordinary attacks are useless against it. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun chuckled. In the next moment, he waved his right hand. Numerous void swords appeared in his hand. His figure suddenly disappeared. It was not because his body technique was fast, but because he had merged into the space. Void slash. In the next moment, a fatal slash flew toward Tianyang. Boom. To the Void Mountain's Shao Zun's surprise, Tianyang actually reacted. He turned around in time and flipped his hand to hold a pitch-black sword. In the next moment, the power of the Saint Realm Sword Principle bloomed. The Chaos Origin operated. Thousands of deity realms and Saint Realm Sword Realm. Kill! Tianyang roared. The Saint Realm Sword Realm condensed a supreme sword formation and blasted toward the Void Mountain's Shao Zun. As expected of someone I acknowledge. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun also smiled faintly. His white robe fluttered in the wind. At the same time, the sword in the Void Mountain's Shao Zun's hand flashed with a dark color. The sword slashed down. Space-splitting sword. Under the sword, the space was split open. It was not an ordinary sword slash that relied on a powerful force to split open the space. Instead, it was because the sword itself had the terrifying property of slicing through space. The sword slashed down. The power of the sword itself and the power of shattering space perfectly overlap. It blasted toward the great void sword embryo. Sword breaking 9 desolation. Tianyang roared. The majestic power of the Saint Realm Sword Principle burst forth. With the power of the Saint Realm Sword Principle that even earthly supreme saints could not contend against, he forcibly repelled the space-splitting sword. Even the Void Mountain's Shao Zun was forcefully slashed back dozens of feet. Tianyang also knew the Saint Realm that the Void Mountain's Shao Zun cultivated. The Void Tao, the Saint Realm Sword Principle. Chapter 1344. What a powerful Saint Sword Principle! Meanwhile, the Void Mountain's young master, who had been sent flying, was also shocked. In the collision just now, Shao Zun of Void Mountain clearly felt that Tianyang's cultivation was only at the intermediate saint realm. And he was already a human great saint. That was to say, Su Tianshao was far weaker than him in terms of cultivation. However, Su Tianshao could still defeat him in a head-on confrontation. However, if it's only the Saint Realm Sword Principle, it can't compare to the saint path of a supreme saint. Shao Zun of Void Mountain smiled and waved his hand. 4 saint paths were all the saint paths he had when he first entered the saint realm. Now, he was a human great saint. The saint paths he had mastered had reached the number of 7 saint paths. Saint Realm Sword Principle, Void Tao, Primordial Spirit Saint, Vital Essence Saint, and Destruction Tao. Streaks of destructive power exploded on the Void Sword. Then, the young master of Void Mountain disappeared again. He had completely disappeared. Even Tianyang's primordial spirit couldn't sense any trace of Shao Zun of Void Mountain. Boom! With a loud sound, a sword burning with terrifying black flames slashed toward Tianyang's head. Tianyang's pupils contracted. Void Mountain's movement technique was really difficult to deal with. However, Tianyang's lips curled up. Destruction true flames. Boom. Compared to Shao Zun of Void Mountain's Destruction Tao, the terrifying spiritual fire surged out from the ground. It blocked Shao Zun of Void Mountain's sword in midair. Tianyang didn't hold back at all and pointed his sword at the sky. 10,000 Mammoth Annihilation. The 9 saint paths merged perfectly. Tianyang's might was unparalleled at the moment. Even the surrounding space was sealed by the power of the 9 saint paths, so Shao Zun of Void Mountain couldn't use the strange movement technique of merging with the void. He could only meet Tianyang head-on. Boom! Black flames collided with black flames. However, the destruction true flames, which had merged with countless spiritual fires, was obviously much more tyrannical than flames formed by pure saint path power. Shao Zun of Void Mountain's sword was completely destroyed in one blow. In Tianyang's Sea of Soul, the Tianshao sword instantly attached itself to the Great Void Sword embryo. Martial soul talent, sky-devouring secret skill. All the spiritual energy in the surroundings surged into Tianyang's body. Tianyang's cultivation instantly stepped into the high-level half-saint realm. Boom! With one strike, the Void Mountain's Shao Zun was sent flying. The white robe on the surface of his body actually flashed with a mysterious light, helping the Void Mountain Shao Zun block almost 70% of the attack power. Of Zun of Void Mountain Zun Zun, Zun of Zun Zun. Zun of Zun, Zun of Zun of Zun of Zun of Zun of Zun, of Void Zun of Zheng of Realm of Zun of Zes. Zun of you of Zhur of Zun of Zish of Zun of you, get out of my way. At this moment, Void Mountain's Shao Zun, who had landed on the ground, roared angrily and made the mid-level saint retreat. He realized that there seemed to be some blood on his white robe. It's been a long time, Void Mountain's Shao Zun said with a smile. It's been a long time since someone made me vomit blood. The Southern Devil Sea is indeed a place of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Any random genius can injure me. If that's the case, I won't hold back either. Otherwise, it would be disrespectful to the peerless genius. The young master of the Void Mountain had a strong fighting spirit on his face. The next moment, powerful waves were released from his white robe. Then, the white robe turned into a suit of armor that exuded the power of the void under Tianyang's strange gaze. Low-grade Great Sage Artifact, Void Battle Armor. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun laughed and said, with it, I can unleash my strongest strength. As for Tianyang, he was completely speechless. It was one thing for the white robe to absorb 70% of the damage from his sword. Void Mountain, you think you're so great just because you're rich? But this white robe could still evolve? Even if the 9 Saint Dao fusion sword couldn't unleash the strongest power of the fusion of the 9 Saint Daos, it could still kill a Thunder Great Sage with one strike. But when it came to the Void Mountain's Shao Zun, he was only slightly injured and was gone. If that's the case, Tianyang sighed. The origin of chaos circulated slowly in Tianyang's body. The origin of chaos was more edible than the endless spirit sea. The nascent soul-pregnant pill that Tianyang had taken before could not only strengthen the primordial spirit but also the vital essence. However, the vital essence left after strengthening the primordial spirit was enough to let a saint break through one realm. It was eaten by the origin of chaos and gone. It didn't even produce a wisp of chaos chi. The origin of chaos could automatically regenerate after the chaos chi was consumed and didn't need to consume the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Tianyang, on the other hand, was extremely displeased. Just now, he had wasted a wisp of chaos chi. Now, welcome the true power of the void. This is the power of Wang Zhili, the ruler of the world. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun roared. Streaks of dark light circulated on the void sword. The next moment, his figure flashed. An incomparably terrifying sword slashed viciously at Tianyang. At this moment Tianyang moved. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun suddenly realized that everything around him, including himself, seemed to be frozen at the moment of the sword attack. And Tianyang's figure suddenly disappeared. Half a second later, time and space froze. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun spat out a large mouthful of blood. An extremely terrifying crack appeared on the Void Battle Armor. This is the Void Mountain's Shao Zun instantly fell to the ground. He half knelt on the ground, his right hand clutching his painful chest. But his face was filled with horror. Time and space. That half-second that seemed like an illusion was definitely the power of time and space. There's actually someone who can master the space-time Tao in this world. The Void Tao was a sublimation of the Space Tao. However, in front of the space-time Tao, it was like an ant compared to an elephant. It was extremely weak. In fact, this was indeed the case. If Tianyang had not cultivated the space-time Tao for a long time, the space-time moment just now would have been enough for the Void Mountain to collect their Shao Zun's corpse. However, the power of my void body tempering art hasn't been unleashed yet. The Void Mountain's Shao Zun roared. He turned around, and the void sword in his hand erupted with supreme shinguang. Void annihilation slash. The void mountains Shao Zun roared. At this moment, the world Inferno Demon Emperor's loud laughter suddenly sounded. Ha 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 ha. Spiritual fire. A half-step level 8 spiritual fire. I've waited for so many years. It's finally here. The next moment, a terrifying dark green fire missile shot toward Tianyang. The Void Mountains Shao Zun's Void Annihilation slash was directly shattered. Even the Void Mountains Shao Zun was severely injured by this terrifying flame. Tianyang's expression changed drastically. He had not expected the World Inferno Demon Emperor to suddenly attack. In a moment of desperation, Tianyang could only use his hands to block. However, the World Inferno Demon Emperor's lips curled into a sinister smile. Even if this guy's physical body was at the Supreme Sage level, it was impossible for him to block his attack. Mystic Yin freeze. Only then did Xianyuan Yun react and cry out in alarm. The missile almost touched Tianyang's arm and was about to swallow Tianyang. Falling shield. At this moment, a delicate voice sounded in Tianyang's soul sea. A barrier formed by strange runes suddenly appeared in front of Tianyang. Boom. Chapter 1345. The terrifying green netherworld mystic fire collided with the runic shield. Tianyang also seized this opportunity to retreat. His expression was extremely grave. He never expected that the World Inferno Demon Emperor would suddenly attack him. No, perhaps the person in front of him was not the World Inferno Demon Emperor. With the power of a holy emperor, even if only a fragment of his soul was still alive, he could reincarnate and even slowly restore his essence soul. Why would he seal his inheritance tens of thousands of meters underground? This is, the power of that strange rune seemed to be terrifyingly powerful. Even the green netherworld mystic fire from the World Inferno Demon Emperor was enough to severely injure Tianyang, but it still could not break the runic shield. It was even swallowed by the runic shield. The World Inferno Demon Emperor's gatekeeper. How could you have it? At this moment, the World Inferno Demon Emperor let out a shrill scream and roared angrily. The next moment, his figure flashed, and he directly appeared in front of Tianyang. Luoluo is very powerful. At this moment, the white flame given by Luoluo burned in Tianyang's hand again. He immediately calmed down and snorted coldly, slashing out with his sword. Insignificant skill. Seeing this, the sky-scorching Demon Emperor sneered. He extended his hand and grabbed the great void sword embryo. At this moment, space-time froze and exploded again. Boom! In the blink of an eye, one of the arms of the world-burning Demon Emperor, which was made of the blue netherworld mystic fire, was chopped off. However, in less than a millisecond, the effect of time and space freezing was gone. Space-time froze for different enemies for different amounts of time. Against the Thunder Magic Great Sage, it could freeze space-time for a second. Against an opponent like the Void Mountains Shao Zun, who had incomparably powerful strength and treasures, it could only freeze space-time for half a second at most. But for an existence like the World Inferno Demon Emperor, Tianyang had just attacked when the effect of space-time froze completely disappeared. You can actually cut off one of my arms? At this moment, the World Inferno Demon Emperor's expression gradually turned sinister. But so what? Die! In an instant, streaks of dark green mystical fire burned and blasted towards Heavenly Sun. At this moment, Tianyang snorted coldly, and the white flame in his left hand burned. Boom! The surrounding green netherworld mystical fire was instantly pushed away, and Tianyang took the opportunity to use the boundless 9 transformations to escape from the world incinerating Demon Emperor's attack range. You are definitely not the world-burning Demon Emperor. Tianyang came to the corner of the hall and stared at the world incineration Demon Emperor in front of him. Hearing this, the world incineration Demon Emperor smirked. If I'm not the World Incineration Demon Emperor, then who am I? Don't tell me it's you? In the next moment, the World Incineration Demon Emperor's appearance suddenly changed into Tianyang's appearance. Seeing this, Yun Xianyuan was dumbfounded. He Izhua and the mid-level sage were dumbfounded, and the Void Mountain's Xiao Zun's pupils contracted in shock. You're not the World Incineration Demon Emperor. You're the Dark Green Netherworld Mystical Fire. Dark Green Netherworld Mystical Fire. These 4 words were like a heavy hammer that hammered on everyone's hearts. Yun Xuanyuan's pupils contracted to the extreme. Dark Green Netherworld Mystical Fire? The Dark Green Netherworld Mystical Fire was only a spiritual fire. Even the fire spirit could not compare to the intelligence displayed by the World Incineration Demon Emperor. Dark Green Netherworld Mystical Fire? TSK, I've long stopped using that name. At this moment, the World Incineration Demon Emperor sneered and returned to the appearance of the World Incineration Demon Emperor. To him, this was the form he was most used to. Since you're the Dark Green Netherworld Mystical Fire, why did you attack the successor of the World Incineration Demon Emperor? At this moment, Yun Xianyuan said in disbelief. However, the World Incineration Demon Emperor instantly went berserk upon hearing this. Don't mention that bastard World Incineration Demon Emperor to me. That bastard World Incineration Demon Emperor, if he's dead, then so be it. Why did he ask me to safeguard his inheritance for him? As long as I found the successor, he would let me out? Then, he sealed me and the World Incineration Demon Castle 100,000 meters below the Zhongjue mountain range. For 1,000 years, no one discovered it. For 5,000 years, even the magma worms living underground did not come close once. 10,000 years, the deadline promised by the World Incineration Demon Emperor was up, and the World Incineration Demon Castle was still underground. 100,000 years, I couldn't wait any longer. I wanted freedom. In the end, it took another 100,000 years to move a few thousand meters. Now, do you know how long it has been? The World Incineration Demon Emperor sneered and his face gradually became distorted. 760,000, 763,591 years, 8 months, 7 days, 5 hours, 30 minutes, 57 seconds, 48 seconds. For more than 760,000 years, I've been staying in this lonely, monotonous, rubbish place that has nothing but myself. The World Incineration Demon Emperor roared angrily. Hearing this, Tianyang's face changed slightly. The spiritual fire was born strong, but it was not a cultivator. If a cultivator wanted to break through to the level of the dark green netherworld mystical fire, they would have to go through countless years of hardships and dangers before they could achieve it. Even if Tianyang had countless opportunities, including his past and present life, it had been close to 1,000 years. The spiritual fire was born strong, and it gained intelligence during the battle with the World Incineration Demon Emperor. Then, it was imprisoned in a place, an unchanging place, for 760,000 years. If it was a cultivator, they could have gone into seclusion to pass this time. But the spiritual fire did not know how to cultivate. It was born the way it was. Unfortunately, the dark green netherworld mystical fire had gained intelligence. This meant that the dark green netherworld mystical fire, as a child, had been imprisoned in a lonely place for countless years. It had gone completely crazy. That's the responsibility of the World Incineration Demon Emperor. What does it have to do with us? The Void Mountains, Xiao Zun said angrily. At this moment, the World Incineration Demon Emperor's torso bent 180 degrees. The whites of his eyes occupied 99% of his hideous eyeballs as he stared at the Void Mountains, Xiao Zun. You? You want the inheritance of the World Incineration Demon Emperor. Then, won't the World Incineration Demon Emperor get what he wants? Also, don't call me the dark green netherworld mystical fire. Now, I'm called Holy Venerable Dark Green Netherworld. The world-scorching demon emperor grinned hideously. In the next moment, he made his move. He appeared directly behind Tianyang and stretched out his right hand at lightning speed. Boom. However, this time, it was blocked by a tough rune. It's the power of the world incineration demon emperor again. Seeing this, Holy Venerable Dark Green Netherworld was stunned for a moment. Then, he screamed. Countless dark green netherworld mystical fires burned and turned the entire hall into a sea of fire. I forgot to tell you that the inheritance of the world incineration demon emperor is long gone. When I was 10,000 years old, I finally found a way to obtain the inheritance. Now, I'm the inheritor of the world incineration demon emperor. Holy Venerable Dark Green Netherworld laughed wildly. Then, he waved his right hand. Green flames shot out from his right hand. Back then, it was him who used this move to throw me out and destroy a city. Holy Venerable Dark Green Netherworld laughed wildly. The flames that shot out instantly turned into fire crows. Chapter 1346. Kill all the crows, stain the sky with blood. Saint Qing Ming's lips curled into a devilish smile. In the next moment, countless fire crows let out ear-piercing screeches and charged towards Tianyang. In an instant, it was as if there were 3,000 fire crows that dyed the entire sky green. From afar, it looked like a sea of green fire. **T. At this moment, Tianyang suddenly realized that the runic shield that devoured countless flames was not omnipotent. Under the attack of countless fire crows, it was showing signs of collapsing. Do you think you know the power of that old bastard, the world-burning demon emperor, better than me? Seeing this, Saint Qing Ming's smile became hideous again. At this moment, Saint Qing Ming's body flashed again, and he threw out a punch. Boom! A true flame of destruction appeared behind Tianyang in time, and helped to reduce some of the power of the punch. However, a considerable amount of Qing Ming mystical flame and terrifying power still landed on Tianyang's body. Puff! Tianyang spat out a mouthful of blood. The immortal blood and immortal bone burned with the immortal divine flame at the same time. That little bit of injury healed instantly. However, Tianyang's face was extremely ugly. Compared to the white-haired young man's aura that suppressed the heavens and the earth, Saint Qing Ming was slightly weaker. Although he was strong, there were ways to defeat him. However, Tianyang was able to determine the strength of Saint Qing Ming from the punch just now. He was definitely a heaven-grade great saint cultivator. Not many people called themselves saint. It was different from saint. Saint was the title of a saint who was at the peak of his strength. As for saint, there was no requirement of strength. However, those who dared to call themselves saint had to be at least an earth-grade great saint. Heaven-grade great saint. Why don't you give me 10 Xianyuan Kongming? Tianyang gritted his teeth and stared at the 3,000 fire crows that flew towards him again. Xianyuan Kongming was an earth-grade great saint. There was not much difference between him and a heaven-grade great saint. However, one Saint Qing Ming could fight 100 Xianyuan Kongming. Destroy. 9 Saint Paths merge. 10,000 mammoth annihilation. Tianyang roared angrily. In his fury, the great void sword embryo emitted a terrifying light and slashed out. The peerless sword might swept across the area and instantly killed the 3,000 fire crows. However, the 3,000 fiery crows were nothing more than a lift of Saint Qing Ming's hand. Fire spirits are hard to deal with, and spirit fires that have gained sentience are even harder to deal with. Tianyang stared at Saint Venerable Qing Ming in front of him. Saint Venerable Qing Ming didn't seem to have the intention to kill Tianyang immediately. Instead, he had a crazy and twisted smile on his face. It was as if he wanted to play Tianyang to death. Although the World Inferno Demon Emperor was called the Demon Emperor, he was not overly demonic. In fact, if he did not cultivate demonic arts, it would not be a problem for him to be called a Saint Emperor. However, Saint Master Qing Ming had already gone mad after hundreds of thousands of years of loneliness. Compared to the world inferno demon emperor, the peerless demon emperor, he was even more demonic. After all, there were many cases where even saints went mad because of looking at things for too long. How could a spiritual fire, whose mind had just been opened and whose state of mind was worse than anyone else's, endure hundreds of thousands of years of loneliness? However, although Tianyang knew the reason, he could understand it. Saint Master Qing Ming did not understand him. The plaything this time is very interesting. Saint Master Qing Ming laughed out loud. At this moment, he waved his hand again. The monstrous Qing Xian fire covered the entire floor of the main hall. At the same time, it flew up along the walls of the main hall and turned the entire main hall into a terrifying furnace of flames. This move is called Sky Incinerating Furnace. Back then, the World Inferno Demon Emperor used this move to kill an earthly great sage. Saint Master Qing Ming said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Tianyang's face turned ghastly pale. It wasn't just the flames that were everywhere. The Tao of Destruction and the Tao of Flame were also contained within it. If Tianyang stayed here for too long, he would definitely die. Luolua's protection. At this moment, Luolua's voice sounded in Tianyang's mind again. Following that, runes and symbols appeared around Heavenly Sunday. They isolated the power of the Qing Xian fire. Tianyang's face changed slightly. Why was Luoluo so powerful? She was only a beginner half-saint. At this moment, Tianyang turned his head and his face changed drastically. Under Luolua's protection, he could ignore the power of the Sky Incinerating Furnace. However, the others could not. Yun Xianyuan and Shao Zun of the Void Mountain were still fine. The former had awakened the Xian Cha-yin body and was extremely resistant to the Qing Xian fire. The latter had managed to survive with the help of countless treasures of the Void Mountain. However, He Izwa and another intermediate saint were about to die in the Sky Incinerating Furnace. Not bad. Although the main ones are not dead yet, the death of a few dregs can make me happy. Saint Qing Ming followed Tianyang's gaze and saw He Izwa and the intermediate saint who were about to die. A carefree smile appeared on his face. To Saint Venerable Qing Ming, death was the only thing that could bring him joy. However, if this continues, Yun Xianyuan and Shao Zun of the Void Mountain will not be able to hold on any longer. Tianyang's face darkened. In the next moment, he rushed into the Qing Xian fire in a flash. Walking into a trap? Saint Qing Ming was stunned. At this moment, Tianyang threw Yun Xianyuan, who had been roasted by the Qing Xian fire, into the Vientiane sky ruins. I'll have to trouble you. At this moment, Tianyang took out the space bag of the Thunder Spell Supreme Saint that he had emptied at the Star Demon auction and threw Shao Zun of the Void Mountain into it. Then, He Izwa and the other intermediate saint entered. You're about to die, and you're still thinking about the lives of others? Seeing this, Saint Qing Ming's face was filled with disdain. Now the idlers are going to die. Just hand over the spiritual fire and let me devour it. That's right. Saint Qing Ming's ultimate goal was to devour Tianyang's true flames of destruction. Since he had gained sentience, it meant that he had transformed from the spiritual fire into a fire spirit. A fire spirit could devour the spiritual fire. *T. At this moment, Tianyang roared angrily. The white flame in his hand burned fiercely as he slashed at Saint Qing Ming with the great void sword embryo. Whether or not Ling Yuhan could recover would depend on whether or not he could deal with Saint Master Qing Ming. Tianyang had to do his best to kill the person in front of him. Boom. One slash, mountain river break. The majestic power of sword principle bloomed and instantly chopped Saint Qing Ming into 8 pieces. At the same time, Tianyang used the ice secret skill to freeze Saint Qing Ming's primordial spirit for a moment. However, an advanced saint can forget about competing with a heaven-grade supreme saint. Saint Qingming recovered his body instantly and broke the ice on his primordial spirit. He smiled faintly. Chapter 1347. The strength of Saint Qingming was too strong. The difference between each cultivation level in Wu Zun's realm was already huge. After the Saint realm, the difference was even more terrifying. Tianyang had merged the 9 Saint paths and comprehended the chaos origin. However, he could only defeat an earthly great sage, Xianyuan Kongming. Peak earthly great sage was Tianyang's limit. However, Saint Qingming was a heavenly great sage who was countless times stronger than an earthly great sage. The strength that he could unleash was not something that Tianyang could contend with. Damn it! The immortal divine flame was burning fiercely in his body. Tianyang wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. At this moment, Tianyang stood on the wall and looked at Saint Qingming, who was smiling ferociously. His face turned ghastly pale. Although Tianyang had the immortal bloodline, it was almost impossible for him to die with the Qingming mystical flame. However, once his primordial spirit was shattered, Tianyang would definitely die no matter how strong his immortal divine body was. However, I might not lose. Tianyang gritted his teeth. The surrounding space was sealed by Saint Qingming's powerful strength. Even if Tianyang wanted to break out, he would need some time. During this time, Saint Qingming would seize the opportunity to kill Tianyang. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Tianyang's countless battle experience allowed Tianyang to think of a way to break out of this situation. That was the strange rune that had a strong suppressive effect on the flame. Now that Luo had given a white flame to Tianyang, Tianyang also had the ability to control the strange rune. In order to defeat Saint Qingming, the strange rune was the key. Why? Are you not coming to seek your own death? At this moment, the corners of Saint Qingming's lips curled up. It was beyond the limits of a human body. The corners of his lips curled up to the corners of his eyes. He looked like a horrifying monster that would make one's heart tremble. Since you are not coming, then I will. In the next moment, Saint Master Qingming's figure suddenly disappeared, and the power of a heavenly great sage erupted. In the blink of an eye, he arrived behind Tianyang and threw out a punch. Tianyang's reaction speed was not slow either. He immediately raised his sword to block the attack. However, he was still sent flying by Saint Qingming's powerful strength. At the same time, countless green profound flames under his feet swept up, as if they were going to ignite Tianyang. However, white runes appeared on the surface of Tianyang's body and devoured the dark green flames. In the next moment, Tianyang used the demon slave imprint to establish a connection with Yun Xianyuan in the Vientiane Sky ruins. Yun Xianyuan, do you still have strength? Tianyang asked anxiously in his heart. At the same time, he slashed out with the great void sword embryo in his hand and blocked Saint Master Qingming's attack for a moment. Saint Master Qingming did not seem to be in a hurry to kill Tianyang. Instead, he displayed a strength that could suppress Tianyang, but not enough to kill Tianyang in an instant. He was slowly wearing down Tianyang. Hundreds of thousands of years of emptiness had driven Saint Master Qingming crazy. Now, he was like a cat toying with a mouse. As the hunter, he was toying with his prey, Tianyang. Sword breaking 9 desolates. Tianyang roared as he destroyed the 3,000 fiery crows that were flying towards him with a slash of his sword. The heavenly expanse 9 transformations was activated rapidly, and he arrived behind Saint Master Qingming in a flash. With a slash of his sword, he activated the 10,000 divine flames. Boom! A part of Saint Master Qingming's flame origin was instantly taken away by the 10,000 divine flames. Oh! Saint Master Qingming was surprised. In the next moment, his face turned ferocious. I didn't expect you to be so capable. In an instant, Saint Master Qingming's speed was much faster than before. He arrived behind Tianyang and struck out with his palm. Tianyang immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the blood was burned by the green mystical flame. That was because the power of the green mystical flame had penetrated deep into Tianyang's body. However, it was suppressed by the immortal blood and cleared by the immortal flame. That was why Tianyang did not turn into a pile of charcoal. Yes, Yun Xianyuan said hastily. Master, what do you need me to do? I will try my best to weaken Saint Master Qingming's power. When I reach a certain level, I will trap Saint Master Qingming for a moment. You will immediately freeze Saint Master Qingming. Then, I will use my ultimate move to kill Saint Master Qingming. Tianyang roared. Upon hearing this, Yun Xianyuan was stunned. Am I useful now? Although you want me to die, do me a favor now. When I am done, I will remove the mark of the demon slave. Then, you can do whatever you want. Tianyang roared. In the next moment, he used all his strength to activate the vast expanse 9 changes. When Saint Master Qingming was attacking, he took the opportunity to appear behind him. Enduring the excruciating pain of the green mystical flame destroying his body, he slashed out with his sword. As the 10,000 godly flame was activated, another part of the green mystical flame was devoured by Tianyang. However, the 2 parts combined could only weaken Saint Master Qingming's power by less than 5%. After all, the 10,000 godly flame was not a combat skill. Die? In the Vientiane sky ruins, Yun Xianyuan was stunned when she heard Tianyang's roar. It was as if something had frozen her heart. She gritted her teeth and said, "No problem." Now that the mark of the demon slave had been removed, she would be on equal footing with him. Thank you. No matter what, this green mystical flame is the only rank 8 sacred flame that I can get my hands on. Tianyang smiled. At this moment, Saint Master Qingming, who had lost 5% of his origin, was enraged. I did not expect that a guy who came to find the inheritance of the world-burning demon emperor would be so cunning. Dark green flames burned in Saint Master Qingming's eyes. In the next moment, he threw out a punch. This punch was fully deserving of the power of a heavenly great saint. Boom. However, Tianyang did not activate the vast expanse 9 changes at this moment. Instead, he activated his body of the Dragon Emperor to the extreme and used all his strength to defend himself. Tianyang spat out a mouthful of blood. In an instant, his aura was weakened to the extreme and he was severely injured. That strange rune was not invincible. Now is the time. Tianyang roared and slashed out with his sword. In the blink of an eye. 10,000 godly flame. This move is useless against me. The space-time stagnated for 5 milliseconds before it disappeared. However, Saint Master Qingming realized that 10% of his origin had been forcefully taken away. Instantly, Saint Master Qingming came to his senses. The reason why Tianyang did not dodge the punch was because he wanted to use the blink of an eye. Even if he was severely injured, he still wanted to use it. He slashed out countless swords to take away his origin. Damn it! Saint Master Qingming's face twisted and he roared. At this moment, the power of Tianyang's primordial spirit erupted again. Secret skill of ice spirits. Godly piercing blade. Countless godly piercing blades were prepared and they pierced into Saint Master Qingming's primordial spirit. As a spiritual flame, even if he had gained sentience, his primordial spirit would not be strong. As the countless godly piercing blades pierced his primordial spirit, Saint Master Qingming let out a painful cry. At this moment, the secret skill of ice spirits froze Saint Master Qingming for a whole second. It's useless. Saint Master Qingming laughed out loud. At this moment, a figure in a black robe appeared behind Saint Master Qingming. It was Yun Xianyuan. With the blood of Xian Pin as a sacrifice, I summon the power of immemorial Xian Pin. Freeze all things, Frost Lotus. Chapter 1348. Using the blood of Xian Ku as a sacrifice to summon the power of the immemorial Xian Ku. Freeze all things, Frost Lotus! Yun Xianyuan shouted as the terrifying power of the immemorial Xian Yin turned into a beautiful blood lotus and shot towards Saint Master Qing Ming. Saint Master Qing Ming's primordial spirit was only sealed and isolated from the body of flames that he controlled. He was not completely frozen. Therefore, after seeing the blood lotus, Saint Master Qing Ming's pupils contracted to the extreme. Mystical Yin body? How can it be the mystical Yin body? How can there be an awakened mystical Yin body in this world? Saint Master Qing Ming roared. Hearing this, Tianyang's face changed slightly. Saint Master Qing Ming knew what the mystical Yin body looked like after it was awakened. At this moment, the blood lotus hit Saint Master Qing Ming, who was frozen by the Ice Soul secret technique. Bang! Streaks of blood-red ice instantly froze Saint Master Qing Ming's body of flames. Saint Master Qing Ming was also trapped in the illusion created by the Frost Lotus. The immemorial Xian Ku fed on emotions. This was the strongest killing move of the mystical Yin body, and one of its effects was to awaken the deepest emotions of the opponent. Green mystical flame? I never thought that I would meet a rank 8 sacred flame. Indeed, the green mystical flame is not comparable to a rank 8 sacred flame. If it was not for the fact that the green mystical flame is good at refining pills, I would have abandoned you long ago. Damn it. Indeed, the inheritance of the fire god is not that easy to obtain. Green mystical. Hurry up and heal my injuries. This was the earliest memory of the green mystical flame. However, it was different from the cliché story where the owner went crazy after abandoning the owner. The world-scorching demon emperor was a demonic cultivator. Naturally, he treated the spiritual flame crudely. Because the green mystical flame is too weak, I almost lost my arm. Useless trash. Luckily, I refined this cauldron of blood pills. The green mystical flame is only useful at this moment. Indeed, it can't block an attack from an imperial emperor. Green mystical flame, hurry up and save me. The power of a monarch is actually this terrifying. I, the great world-scorching devil emperor, am actually going to die in such a cowardly manner here? Burial Mountain Range? The place where a bunch of useless great saints are buried is also going to bury me? I can't give this green profound flame to others. Then, I'll let you guard my inheritance forever. 10,000 years, just 10,000 years will do. Little Qing Ming, this is my last wish. Just take my legacy and stay underground for 10,000 years. Then, his memory was interrupted for a moment. What followed was 760,000 years of loneliness, despair, and madness. World-burning demon emperor! You bastard! Die for me! Go to hell! Within the blood-colored ice, Saint Venerable Qing Ming had also reached the peak of madness. The countless Qing Ming Xian flames that formed the heaven-burning furnace also went berserk at this moment. The monstrous demonic flames seemed to want to incinerate the entire world. As for Yun Xianyuan, as the owner of the Frost Gloomy Lotus, he could naturally receive some of the emotions and memories that Saint Qing Ming had evoked from the blood-red ice. His entire body froze on the spot. Thanks a lot. Tianyang smiled and white flames gathered in his hands. Yun Xianyuan bit his lips and stretched out his hand as if he wanted to stop Tianyang. At this moment, within the blood-red ice, Saint Venerable Qing Ming's last thought before he went completely mad came out. Destroy this world that gave birth to the world-burning demon emperor. Destroy this bastard world. I've gotten the inheritance of the world-burning demon emperor? Then, everyone has to die. Hearing the crazy roars of Saint Venerable Qing Ming in his memory, Yun Xianyuan finally remembered. In his first memory, the pure and powerful Qing Ming Xian flames had died long ago. What was left was the crazy obsession of Saint Venerable Qing Ming, who only wanted to destroy everything. How dare you hurt my father? Luoluo, go and die. At this moment, Bai Luoluo suddenly appeared. The white flames in Tianyang's hands circulated to the extreme. The palm-sized white flames burned to the peak and covered the entire main hall. It was more than 10,000 feet tall, and carried with it supreme power. At this moment, Saint Venerable Qing Ming, who had just roared in the blood-red ice, was stunned. A trace of clarity appeared in his eyes. "Oh right, this rune is not the power of the world-burning demon emperor. It's the power of the fire god. Luoluo Cannon. Bad guy, go to hell!" Bai Luoluo shouted. Instantly, the horrifying flames turned into the supreme power of the fire god and charged towards Saint Venerable Qing Ming. At this moment, Saint Venerable Qing Ming seemed to have given up all resistance and allowed the white flames to devour him. Qing Ming Xian Flames was born in heaven and earth and died. If he died under the power of the fire god, it might not be too bad. Boom! The blood-red ice was cleansed by the white flames. As for Saint Venerable Qing Ming, he gradually disappeared in the white flames. At least, Tianyang could no longer sense Saint Venerable Qing Ming's aura in his primordial spirit. That's it? The white flames dissipated slowly and Tianyang was stunned. Although Luoluo's power was able to restrain all kinds of flames, Tianyang's best guess was that she had only severely injured Saint Venerable Qing Ming. As for killing him, Tianyang did not even think about it. At this moment, a small green flame burned where Saint Venerable Qing Ming had been. However, Tianyang sensed that the flame did not have any spiritual intelligence. The origin of Qing Ming Xian Flames. Rank 8. Seeing this, Tianyang was overjoyed. When he saw the green profound flame that only had a little flame left, Tianyang's expression changed a little. He was afraid that the Qing Ming Xian Flames would be destroyed by Luoluo's cannon and its cultivation level would drop. At that time, Tianyang could only use the 10,000 elephant holy flame to devour the Qing Ming Xian Flames and raise the true destruction flames to rank 8 before saving Ling Yuhan. Although it was fine as long as it was an rank 8 spiritual flame, Tianyang had mastered the true destruction flames for so many years and his control over it had reached a certain level. Generally speaking, there would not be any problems. However, as long as there was something that was disadvantageous to Ling Yuhan, Tianyang would not allow it to be born. No, the Qing Ming Xian Flames that Saint Venerable Qing Ming had injected into my body is not extinguished. At this moment, Tianyang's expression changed slightly and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The raging fist of Saint Qing Ming was the true strength of a heaven-grade great sage. Tianyang managed to block it with his physical sanctification body, but he did not die. Countless Qing Ming Xian Flames were still raging in Tianyang's body. Let's get rid of the Qing Ming Xian Flames first. Tianyang spat out another mouthful of blood and gave up on the idea of devouring the Qing Ming Xian Flames to dissolve the 9 underworlds' energy. He sat down cross-legged and circulated the divine wilderness heaven spiritual technique and immortal body to eliminate the Qing Ming Xian Flames in Tianyang's body. Oh right, the demon slave mark. It's time to get lost. At this moment, Tianyang smiled and erased the demon slave mark in his mind. Yun Xianyuan suddenly felt that the connection between him and Tianyang had disappeared. But for some reason, Yun Xianyuan felt empty in his heart. One was the death of Saint Venerable Qing Ming. What was the other? Now you are free. Chapter 1349. 10 days later. Tianyang had finally fully recovered from the injuries caused by Saint Venerable Qing Ming's punch. In fact, Tianyang had already devoured or expelled all the green deep mystical fire on the second day. However, it still took him more than 8 days to recover his physical body. A punch from a heavenly grade great saint was not easy to bear. Tianyang's immortal divine body was the reason he could survive. After spending 10 days to recover himself to his peak state, Tianyang had dared to devour the green deep mystical fire. Only then did he dare to melt the 9 underworlds' power and revive Ling Yuhan. I almost forgot that there are still 3 people in the space bag. However, just as he was about to devour the green deep mystical fire, Tianyang suddenly remembered that he and Yun Xianyuan were not the only ones in this hall. Bai Luoluo was also there. The group from Void Mountain was still eating dust in Tianyang's space bag. Unlike the Vientiane sky ruins, which was full of vitality, there were mountains, rivers, birds, and water. Inside the space bag was an absolute life-forbidden zone. It was completely dark inside. There was no gravity or air. Ordinary people would die without a doubt if they entered, but people like Xiao Zun from Void Mountain would have no problem surviving inside. However, if they stayed for too long, they might become another saint, Venerable Qingming. At this thought, Tianyang suddenly felt a chill. Although Xiao Zun from Void Mountain could not be compared to Saint Venerable Qingming, one lunatic was already troublesome enough. If there were another 3 lunatics, Tianyang would recognize one of them. Tianyang would definitely not be in a good mood. With a wave of his hand, rays of silver light flashed and the 3 from Void Mountain flew out. It's been 10 days. Is Su Tianxiao finally dead? To be able to last 10 days in front of a heavenly grade great saint's green deep mystical fire is really great. The mid-level saint closed his eyes, his face full of sorrow. Come on. Green deep mystical fire, kill Qing Donghua, the only mid-level saint in this world. To be able to die in the hands of a heavenly grade great saint, I can die without regret. Void Mountain's Xiao Zun and Heizhua, who had opened their eyes, looked at him. After a few minutes, the long-awaited Qingming mystic fire didn't appear. Qing Donghua from the Void Mountain also opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was the strange looks in Xiao Zun and his good friend's eyes. So even Lord Xiao Zun couldn't escape. Well, a heaven great saint is already the top existence among the 13 keepers of the Void Mountain. Scram! At this moment, Xiao Zun of Void Mountain, who had always been expressionless, finally could not help but kick Qing Donghua in the face, sending him flying. It hurts. No, I'm not dead? Only at this moment did Qing Donghua realize that he was still alive. Wow! Qing Donghua immediately burst into tears. Thank you, Tao of the Void. Thank you, Su Tianxiao. Thank you myself. Thank the heavens. I, Qing Donghua, am not dead. He's an idiot. Ignore him. Looking at the crazy Qing Donghua in the distance, Xiao Zun of the Void Mountain suddenly felt humiliated. How could the Void Mountain, the most powerful force in the Xiantian world, produce such a lunatic? It seems that you've dealt with the green deep flame. Xiao Zun of the Void Mountain said as he looked at the green deep flame beside Tianyang. Although he had come for the green deep flame, he knew very well what had happened. Who had allowed him to live until now? He naturally did not have any thoughts about the green deep flame. Thank you, Brother Su Tianxiao. The Void Mountain will not forget this kindness. Xiao Zun of the Void Mountain bowed and cupped his fist. It's nothing. Tianyang chuckled. The Void Mountain was recognized as the strongest force in the Xiantian world. No matter what, it was absolutely necessary to build a good relationship with them. Then, the 3 of us will take our leave. Xiao Zun of the Void Mountain stretched out his hand and operated the Tao of the Void. His arm seemed to pass through space and appeared beside Qing Donghua. He grabbed Qing Donghua and brought him back to his side. Then, he tore open a spatial door with Qing Donghua and Heizhua and left this place. I didn't expect him to be so strong. The Xiantian world is still full of hidden talent. Xiao Zun of the Void Mountain chuckled in the Zhongjue mountain range. Tianyang. I'm looking forward to it. Heaven what? At this moment, Qing Donghua turned his head curiously. Xiao Zun, are you complaining about heaven? No one will think you're mute if you don't speak. Thank you for your cooperation. After the Void Mountain Xiao Zun and the other 2 left, Tianyang turned his attention to the green underworld flame. Saint Master Qingming's primordial spirit was not very strong. The reason he could easily destroy Tianyang's Ice Soul secret technique was because of the uniqueness of the spiritual fire and his strength as a heaven-grade great saint. In terms of primordial spirit power, Saint Master Qingming was only an intermediate saint. However, Tianyang's primordial spirit power had constantly transformed in the fierce battles. It was not something that Tianyang, who had just walked out of the divine origin paradise, could compare to. At this moment, Tianyang was an advanced saint, close to the peak of the saint realm. Saint Master Qingming could not escape from Tianyang's primordial spirit when he was still alive. This was also why Tianyang had dodged so many attacks. As for the origin source flame that was left, Heavenly Sun scanned it thoroughly. "I'm not tricking you," Tianyang smiled. Then he glanced at Yun Xianyuan. "Although you hate me, can you do me a favor?" Yun Xianyuan, who was in a dilemma, was stunned. He looked up. "What?" "At least, don't attack me before I revive you, Han." Tianyang smiled. Yun Xianyuan was stunned. "Because I don't want to attack you either." Then Tianyang turned around. His expression was solemn as he activated the 10,000 elephant divine flame. He absorbed the green mystical flame into his body. In the next moment, Tianyang sat on the ground with his legs crossed. He activated his powerful refining power and tried his best to refine the green mystical flame. An 8th-level sacred flame was extremely difficult to refine. Even the green mystical flame, which was not very aggressive, required Tianyang to do his best. Yun Xianyuan stood silently on the spot and looked at Tianyang, who was not far away. If it was a year ago, he would have killed Tianyang without hesitation. The person who was refining the spiritual flame was always the weakest. However, Yun Xianyuan looked at her hands. She could not even activate the mysterious Yin energy. In fact, because of what he had said earlier, his heart was trembling nonstop. Tianyang said that because Yun Xianyuan had helped him escape from the Xianyuan family and killed Saint Master Qingming. Yun Xuanyuan's rationality was telling her that this was definitely the case. That was right. However, there was still 0.1% of her rationality that was thinking in the impossible direction. Yun Xianyuan sat down. She looked at Tianyang and closed her eyes slowly. She had not slept for decades. Now, she was going to sleep? Yun Xianyuan smiled as she looked at Tianyang's side profile, who was trying his best to refine the green mystical flame. Chapter 1350. It was not difficult to refine the green mystical fire, but it was not easy either. Even though Tianyang had refined countless spiritual fires, it still took him half a month to refine the rank 8 spiritual fire. This was because Tianyang had tried his best to refine it. If he had relaxed, it might have taken him a month or even half a year to refine it. Ling Yuhan could not wait for half a year. Luckily, the green mystical fire is not an overbearing spiritual fire. Although the Saint Green mystical fire that turned into a demon is a little strong, the origin source flame is still normal. Tianyang opened his eyes slowly, and his face was filled with joy. 2 months ago, in the Xianyuan family, Ling Yuhan had used the 9 Heavens Dark Seal forcefully, causing herself to be severely injured and frozen by the 9 Underworld's energy. 2 months later, Tianyang had refined the green mystical fire and was about to save Ling Yuhan. Compared to a year, it was much shorter. It was out of Tianyang's expectation that it would be so smooth. However, the Saint Green mystical fire's strength was indeed terrifying. If he was not careful, Tianyang would have been in danger of losing his life. Luckily, the Saint Green mystical fire had given up resisting and was killed by the White Rune. Tianyang had looked for Luoluo to study the White Rune, but in the end, he had no clue. Even the Heaven's Expanse Saint Spirit could not find anything. In the end, Tianyang could only leave it as it was. As for the relationship between Bai Luoluo and the World Incineration Demon Emperor, Tianyang knew some of the World Incineration Demon Emperor's life experiences through the Green Mystical Fire's memories. He had no children, and Bai Luoluo was found in the Heavens continent. How could she be related to the World Incineration Demon Emperor? In that case, Tianyang could only give up for the time being. Next, Tianyang stood up with a ball of gentle green profound flame burning in his right hand. Unlike Saint Master Qingming, who had completely fallen into madness, the green profound flame was extremely gentle. In the history of the Xiantian world, there had been all kinds of spiritual fires, except for the green profound flame. Otherwise, it would not be called the powerful spiritual fire that countless alchemists dreamed of. The power of the primordial spirit seeped into every part of the green deep mystical flame. At this moment, Tianyang completely unleashed the power of his primordial spirit in order to control the green deep mystical flame in the most precise way possible. Then, Tianyang waved his right hand and a spatial door to the Vientiane sky market opened. Tianyang walked in. "You found an 8th order sacred flame?" At this moment, the little golden girl who had been taking care of Ling Yuhan looked at the green profound flame in Tianyang's hand in shock, and said in disbelief. An 8th order sacred flame was an extremely rare existence even for a powerful weapon spirit that was most likely not a product of the profound sky great world. It had only been 2 months and Tianyang had already found an 8th order sacred flame? Fortunately, I did not disappoint you. Green profound flame. Tianyang chuckled. Then, he reached out and pulled Ling Yuhan into his arms. Then, the green profound flame in his hand rose and began the final melting. The power of the 9 nether was the original power of the 9 nether saint body. At this moment, it had solidified and frozen Ling Yuhan. It preserved Ling Yuhan's vitality and prevented it from dissipating. However, it also froze Ling Yuhan's primordial spirit, which was equivalent to a living dead person. This green netherworld flame contained a powerful life force. It could not only melt the power of the 9 underworlds, it could also provide Ling Yuhan with strands of life force at critical moments. Even if the true destruction flame had been upgraded to 8th order, it would not be more suitable for this job than the green profound flame. I didn't expect it to be the green profound flame. You are really lucky. The little golden girl looked at the green profound flame in Tianyang's hand with a complicated expression and exclaimed. Even if ordinary people knew that they were looking for a 8th order sacred flame, it was unknown whether they could get any information about it. Even if they got the information, they might not be able to find it. Even if they found it, it might not be suitable. However, Tianyang had not only found a 8th order sacred flame from scratch, but it was also the most suitable green profound flame for this situation. This could only be said to be a miracle. In the distance, Yun Xianyuan had also returned to the Vientiane sky ruins. Looking at Tianyang's affectionate eyes, she felt a throbbing pain in her heart. It was impossible for him to look at her like that. "It's starting," Tianyang shouted in a low voice. Then, the green profound flame touched the ice formed by the power of the 9 nether. Although he could prevent the heavenly sun from coming into contact with Ling Yuhan and cause the green profound fire to melt directly, however, in order to do it perfectly, Tianyang held Ling Yuhan in his arms and allowed the terrifying power of the 9 nether to corrode his body. He had to be in control of Ling Yuhan's situation at all times. The 9 nether sacred body was a unique and powerful body constitution, even in the Xiantian Great World. Moreover, Ling Yuhan also had the bloodline of the 9-tailed lunar fox. The combination of the two made it difficult for the green profound flame to melt her. One day, one night, Ling Yuhan's arm did not thaw. Tianyang's primordial spirit power had been partially consumed, but Tianyang did not let go. His eyes were fixed on Ling Yuhan. 3 days, 3 nights. The consumption of the green profound flame was extremely frightening. After all, it was a sacred flame of the 8th level, and the heavenly sun's true essence, which had never shown any signs of exhaustion except for the sky sword, was actually showing signs of exhaustion. In order to prevent Ling Yuhan from being disturbed, Tianyang did not even want to use the divine wilderness spiritual skill to absorb the vast amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy in the Vientiane sky ruins. He was holding on with his own true origin. 10 days, 10 nights. More than half of Ling Yuhan's body had melted. However, half of Tianyang's body was frozen by the power of the nine nether. On one side, he looked like a normal human. On the other side, there was endless frost. It was impossible to see Tianyang's original appearance on the other side. Melting the power of the nine nether does not have to be done in one go. Even if Ling Yuhan recovers, you will not be able to recover. Seeing this, the vast expanse Saint Spirit could not help but say. The fusion of the power of the nine nether and the nine-tailed heavenly moon fox's bloodline had caused Tianyang to be half frozen even with the true flames of destruction and the immortal fire protecting him. Luckily, Tianyang's immortal blood was strong enough. The power of the nine nether was not enough to invade Tianyang's body. Otherwise, given the current situation, Tianyang would have died long ago. I've waited for 2 months. I don't want to wait any longer, Tianyang said calmly. He did not waste any of his true origin. On his half-frozen body, he focused on using the green profound flame. Even the endless spirit ocean of the past has dried up? 20 days had passed. The remaining half of the frost had invaded Tianyang's body, except for his right arm and head. Tianyang only frowned slightly. The space bag opened automatically. A pill flew out and was swallowed by Tianyang. The pill's power spread automatically. Tianyang did not use the Divine Wilderness Heaven Spirit technique to let his Dantian absorb the pill's power. This was a recovery pill that Tianyang had created himself. It was for a situation like this. The little golden girl's face was extremely tense. She did not want to see Tianyang die here. In the distance, Yun Xianyuan squatted down and covered his face. Colorless liquid flowed down his cheek. Ling Yuhan's life force has started to recover. She can deal with the rest herself. You should go and rest, the vast expanse Saint Spirit said seriously. The power of the nine nether is not that simple. There's no need. Tianyang smiled. His face that was covered by a thin layer of frost curled up into a smile. Even so, he still had to let the green profound flame burn. She has done so much for me. How can I let her do it again? Chapter 1351. Day after day, week after week, month after month. The difficulty of dealing with the nine nether energy had far exceeded Tianyang's expectations. Even though Tianyang had been constantly activating the green mystical flame, it was still difficult for him to overcome the last layer of the nine nether energy. Even the creator of this layer of nine nether energy, the heaven's expanse Saint Spirit, did not expect that the nine nether energy would instinctively freeze the brain to such a terrifying extent. Her torso, heart, and other parts of her body had almost completely melted. The nine nether energy had also been completely absorbed into Ling Yuhan's body. However, as long as the ice in her brain was not removed, Ling Yuhan's primordial spirit would always be in a frozen state. In that case, no matter how perfectly Tianyang recovered, Ling Yuhan would never be able to recover. I didn't expect that the dozens of elixirs that I prepared would be used up, but it's still not resolved. Tianyang's lips curled into a bitter smile. At this moment, other than his right palm, his entire body was encased in ice formed by the nine nether energy. The green mystical flame on his right hand was also a little withered, but it was just as well. Not only his true yuan, but Tianyang's primordial spirit had also been greatly depleted. With the green mystical flame withered, Tianyang could better control it. The changes of day and night in the Vientiane sky ruins were different from the Xiantian Great World. Therefore, Tianyang did not know how much time had passed. In his heart, there was only one thing that was determined to complete this final task. You've been like this, not absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from the outside world? With your current level of control over the green mystical flame, the effect of absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is almost negligible. The little golden girl frowned as she said, Yes, from the beginning until now, Tianyang had not once absorbed the vast amount of spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the Vientiane sky ruins. If he did, Even if he did not use all his strength to absorb the spiritual energy, Tianyang would not need the help of elixirs. Just the spiritual source C alone was enough to replenish Tianyang's true yuan. However, Tianyang was still holding on. The Heaven's Expanse Saint Spirit was an artifact spirit, and it was unable to channel its true yuan into Tianyang's body. They could only watch helplessly as the heavenly sun was consumed bit by bit. A little bit of influence is still an influence. Tianyang's lips curled into a bitter smile. How can I admit defeat so easily until the very last moment? Look, the immortal fire is burning on its own. I don't even need to focus on cultivating, and the indestructible blood is rapidly improving. Hearing this, the little golden girl fell silent. This was probably the only benefit of pushing himself to this extent. Even the immortal divine body was activated automatically, fearing that this existence would die. As for the area between Ling Yuhan's eyebrows, under the continuous melting of Tianyang's green mystical fire, the ice finally showed signs of loosening. Tianyang's face also brightened up. He once again focused his mind and burned the green profound flame with all his strength. About 3 days had passed. The last bit of ice between Ling Yuhan's eyebrows finally melted. With the last bit of 9 underworlds power on Ling Yuhan's body, it quickly merged into Ling Yuhan's body. Tianyang was instantly overjoyed. However, before Tianyang could feed Ling Yuhan the healing elixir that he had prepared beforehand, Ling Yuhan's eyes suddenly opened. Tianyang's face changed instantly. Just as he started to channel his true yuan, a terrifying extreme cold power was released from Ling Yuhan's body. It was dark sealing the 9 heavens. With Ling Yuhan as the center, streaks of terrifying cold ice spread out in all directions at lightning speed. Tianyang immediately ignited the true flames of destruction to resist this powerful extreme cold. Even so, the 9 underworlds power on the surface of his body almost exploded. What's going on? The Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit's face changed drastically. He immediately moved to save Tianyang. At this moment, a strange rune appeared between Ling Yuhan's eyebrows. In less than 10 seconds it disappeared. The terrifying extreme cold power that exploded also slowly disappeared. However, with Ling Yuhan as the center, the land within a radius of 1,000 miles was completely sealed in ice by an incomparably terrifying power of ice. This is only the remaining underworld sealing 9 heavens? The Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit gasped and said. Although the 9 underworlds frost formula was given to Tianyang by the Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit, the Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit did not expect the underworld sealing 9 heavens to be so powerful. In fact, the Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit did not even expect Ling Yuhan to be able to use the underworld sealing 9 heavens. At this moment Ling Yuhan sat up. In her eyes there was no emotion at all. His indifferent gaze swept around the room. As for the Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit who was close to her, his heart trembled. He had the urge to kneel down and worship her. This is... The Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit's teeth were chattering. He stared at the rune between Ling Yuhan's eyebrows that was shining brighter and brighter. This was no longer a realm that the Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit could reach. This was the power of the godly state. How can Ling Yuhan have the power of the godly state? No wonder she could use the underworld sealing 9 heavens by force. The Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit roared in his heart. At this moment, Bai Luo, who had been catching fish in the Spirit Source Sea, appeared in front of everyone. In the instant that he saw Ling Yuhan, he jumped up in joy. Mother Yuhan! Then, she immediately ran towards Ling Yuhan. Don't! The Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit shouted. That was the power of the godly state. It was not something that could be easily dealt with. At this moment, Ling Yuhan also noticed Bai Luoluo's presence. She glanced over. However, a strange rune abruptly appeared in front of Bai Luoluo and completely offset the terrifying power of extreme frost. The rune between Ling Yuhan's eyebrows trembled and disappeared immediately. Ling Yuhan's eyes gradually regained their clarity. Eh? Ling Yuhan looked around and was a little dazed. Why does heaven look like this? Everything within 1,000 miles was covered in frost. It looked similar to the Xianyuan family after Ling Yuhan used the underworld sealing 9 heavens. At this moment, Bai Luoluo pounced forward. Ah! Ling Yuhan was also shocked, but when he saw who it was, he revealed a happy smile. It's Luoluo. If that's the case. Stroking Luoluo's silver-white hair, Ling Yuhan seemed to have thought of something and turned around immediately. As expected, the Heaven's Expanse Holy Palace was at the side. The Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit was using its 2 hands to lift Tianyang. Master! Ling Yuhan's eyes were filled with tears. In a flash, she left Bai Luoluo on the spot and ran towards Tianyang. The Heaven's Expanse Holy Spirit pouted and threw Tianyang out without mercy. Bang! Ling Yuhan caught Tianyang firmly, and Tianyang opened his eyes at this moment, the corners of his mouth curling up into a smile. However, before he could say the second word, Tianyang opened his eyes wide. 2 soft pieces of skin blocked his lips. Don't speak. After a long while, Ling Yuhan opened her mouth with a smile and waved her little fist. Master, if you speak again, I'll force you to sleep. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled and closed his eyes. His head lay on Ling Yuhan's lap, and he fell asleep in less than 3 seconds. 5 months and 26 days, consuming his true yuan and primordial spirit power all the time. This guy is really stubborn. The little golden girl floated in front of Ling Yuhan. Looking at the defenseless Tianyang, she curled her lips and said. Bai Luoluo was stunned. She did not know why Ling Yuhan suddenly disappeared. Chapter 1352. Tianyang slept for a total of 10 days. If it was not for the fact that Tianyang still had a bit of consciousness to control his sleep, he would have slept for another half a year. Tianyang had used up too much energy this time. It could be said that his true origin and primordial spirit energy were completely depleted. The 10 days of sleep had only allowed his primordial spirit energy to recover a little. If he wanted to recover his true origin, he would have to drink the spiritual source ocean dry first. However, I still have some medicinal pills that can help me recover quickly after I overdraw my true origin energy. Although it might not be enough, it should be able to help me recover some of my combat strength. Tianyang chuckled. He took out 2 medicinal pills from his space bag and swallowed them as though he was chewing beans. Tianyang's aura also started to change slowly. At this moment Tianyang was shocked. His cultivation base, advanced saint stage? Tianyang exclaimed in disbelief. He did not do anything. How did he break through from the intermediate saint stage to the advanced saint stage? Even sword light would not be so fast. You broke through to the advanced saint stage on the 5th day of the 3rd month. However, you had already lost your mind when you used the green profound flame. You did not even know that you had broken through. If you had not broken through to the advanced saint stage, do you think you would be able to continuously use the level 8 sacred flame and control it for more than 5 months? The little golden girl said angrily. For some reason, the little golden girl placed more hope in Tianyang than the 9 universes Saint Emperor. Perhaps it was the vast expanse divine level that had completely destroyed Wu Zun's limit and Tianyang's miraculous performance that had shocked her. Is that so? Tianyang scratched his head when he heard that. However, his expression gradually turned serious. Advanced Saint Stage. Even if I use the heaven-devouring secret skill, I'll only be at the peak of the Advanced Saint Stage. If I'm lucky, I'll only be at the peak of the Advanced Saint Stage. In other words, even if I want to rely on my own strength to fight against Saint Master Qingming, my chances of winning are extremely low. If I want to defeat the patriarch of the Xianyuan family, I'm still too weak. Tianyang clenched his fists and said with an ugly expression, "Half-Saint Emperor, These 3 words were like an incomparably tall monument erected in Tianyang's heart. Even though Ling Yuhan had recovered, Tianyang would never forget the humiliation the Xianyuan family had brought him that day. Tianyang did not care about this world, but the Xianyuan family must be destroyed. Even the number 1 family in the mysterious sky world, which had stood tall for countless years, was the same. Ancestor Xian Yuan must have cultivated for tens of millions of years to become a half-holy emperor. I'm afraid you haven't even reached 35 years old yet. You're still too young to be compared to someone who's been alive for 10 million years. However, the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. However, I have high hopes for you. Compared to that coward 9 universes Saint Emperor, you're much stronger. If it's you, it's possible to bring me back to that world. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. That world. Although the Heavens Expanse Saint Palace had always been in Tianyang's Vientiane sky market, Tianyang had no idea what the Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit's goal was. When he asked before, the Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit had used the reason that he was too weak to answer. As a result, Tianyang did not know what the Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit wanted to do. I've forgotten if I've told you before, the little golden girl said. On her young face, there was a trace of vicissitudes that did not match her temperament. The Heavens Expanse Saint Palace is not complete. It's just a fragment of a huge object. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes narrowed. This was the first time he had heard of this. The Heavens Expanse Saint Palace that had created the 9 universes Saint Emperor was just a fragment. How strong was the Heavens Expanse Saint Palace's main body? I've been thinking about how strong my main body would be if it's just a fragment. The Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit said faintly. Now, it seems like it should be the deity realm or the emperor realm. The Saint Emperor realm is not the end of the martial Tao, but the end of the Xiantian Great World. There must be another world above the Xiantian Great World. That is the real world where the martial Tao is flourishing. My main body, or should I say the past, is in that world, the Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit said. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression changed. He now understood why the Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit always looked unhappy whenever the 9 universes Saint Emperor was mentioned. He had always been puzzled. Although the 9 universes Saint Emperor was just an ordinary Saint Emperor and could not be compared to someone like the world-scorching Demon Emperor, he was still the strongest existence in the Xiantian Great World. Why was the Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit always so unhappy with him? Now, it seemed like the 9 universes Saint Emperor had only reached the peak of this world. However, the Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit wanted to transcend this world. In the countless years of the Xiantian Great World's history, Tianyang knew that no one had transcended and ascended. Therefore, Tianyang was not sure if there were any. However, even if there were, it would be extremely difficult. Even the 9 universes Saint Emperor could not do it. However, the Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit saw hope in Tianyang. Is that so? Tianyang smiled. Then, thank you for your kindness. Don't worry. Even if you don't want to go to that new world, I will definitely go. At this point, Tianyang's eyes burned with the flames of vengeance. He was almost certain that the great civilization annihilation, which had destroyed the martial Tao of the Heavens continent and the Xiantian Great World, was man-made. There were too many traces of natural causes that could not be removed. Tianyang continued to grow stronger. One was his pursuit to reach the peak of the martial Tao. Another was to find the truth behind the great civilization annihilation. His obsession for revenge. That's good. The Heavens Expanse Saint Spirit smiled and left, returning to the Heavens Expanse Saint Palace. Tianyang rested for a while before opening the space door to return to the dark ancient castle. Although Tianyang did not obtain the legacy of the World Incineration Demon Emperor, there was still a part of the World Incineration Demon Emperor's martial technique hidden in the green mystical fire. Tianyang was overjoyed. Coupled with Ling Yuhan's recovery, This trip to the southern devil domain was worth it. Let's go. However, Yuhan, you have to stay here and recuperate. Tianyang turned his head and reminded Ling Yuhan. Although Ling Yuhan had recovered, she had not recovered to her peak. However, her cultivation had inexplicably broken through to the saint stage. This made Tianyang very confused. However, the side effects of forcefully using the Nine Heavens Dark Seal were still present. Tianyang would rather die than let Ling Yuhan go out and risk her life. Got it. Ling Yuhan pursed her lips and did not cause any trouble. She accepted Tianyang's request. After that, Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan walked out of the Vientiane Sky ruins together. At this moment, a clear and melodious voice with a hint of evilness rang out. Both of you have kept me waiting for a long time. A young man in black squinted his eyes and smiled at Tianyang and Yun Xianyuan. It's been a long time. I wonder if both of you still remember me? Su Tianxiao and Yuan Xian. Or should I say, Tianyang and Saintess Xianyuan? The young man in black opened his eyes and the shadow of a dragon flashed across his eyes. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. He had used too much of his true origin earlier and could no longer maintain his disguise. Now, he was using his original appearance. However, what was the situation with Yun Xianyuan? However, Tianyang smiled gently. It has indeed been a long time. Chapter 1353. The Demon Dragon Crown Prince. In fact, no matter how clever Tianyang was, he would never have thought that the Demon Dragon Crown Prince would appear here at this time. When he was in the ancestral land of the Dragon God, the Demon Dragon Crown Prince strangely chose an unknown Dragon King's inheritance and left. Even the Thunder Great Saint didn't seem to notice the Demon Dragon Crown Prince, who was notorious in the Central Divine Land and had a grudge against the Xianyuan family. It meant that the Demon Dragon Crown Prince was likely to be the first to leave. Therefore, although Tianyang knew that the Demon Dragon Crown Prince belonged to the Southern Devil Ghost race, he didn't expect that he would appear in the Zhongjue mountain range. I wonder why the Demon Dragon Crown Prince is here? Tianyang chuckled. Although he had only recovered 20 to 30% of his true yuan and couldn't use much of his battle strength, Tianyang wasn't afraid of the Demon Dragon Crown Prince. If he couldn't beat him, he could at least run away. If the Demon Dragon Crown Prince was here to snatch the Azure Profound Fire, then Tianyang didn't need to be polite with him. I heard that the Azure Profound Fire was here, so I immediately rushed here. However, when I arrived at this place, there was no longer a single person here. I searched everywhere for the Cyan Underworld Mystical Flame, but no one was able to obtain it. Now it seems that the Azure Profound Fire was obtained by Brother Tianyang. The Demon Dragon Crown Prince chuckled, and a demonic light flashed in his dragon eyes. It was as if the one in front of Tianyang wasn't a powerful dragon, but a demon. Tianyang's expression didn't change, but a sharp light flashed in his eyes, and his heart was on alert. Although the heavenly sword didn't react, the Demon Dragon Crown Prince most likely had nothing to do with the demon. However, even a trace of suspicion was enough to make Tianyang vigilant. After all, no matter how strong the demon was, they weren't easy to deal with. What's more, the Demon Dragon Crown Prince's strength was probably stronger than Tianyang's current high-level saint realm. When the Saint Sun Xianyuan and Yun Xianyuan joined forces, they could fight against a human-grade Supreme Saint, but they were still afraid of the Demon Dragon Crown Prince. From this, one could see how powerful the Demon Dragon Crown Prince was. So, do you want to snatch it? Tianyang said with a smile. Yun Xuanyuan's expression changed as well. The mysterious Yin energy in his body started to circulate slowly. If the Demon Dragon Crown Prince wanted to make a move, then even if she was traumatized, she would still take action. How dare you? How dare you speak to His Highness like that? At this moment, a furious roar erupted from one of the black-robed men behind the Crown Prince Demon Dragon. In the next moment, the black robe that covered his entire body was torn apart inch by inch. In an instant, An incomparably huge, muscular man charged towards Tianyang. Streams of terrifying dragon force burst out from the burly man's body. His face was filled with anger as he punched out. "How dare you!" At this moment, Yun Xianyuan spoke first. He released his profound Yin energy, and icicles condensed from the primordial Xuanyuan's pure Yin energy shot towards the burly man. Boom! The burly man smashed Yun Xuanyuan's icicle with a punch. Although his fist was frozen, his strength did not diminish. His face was full of anger as his dragon power erupted. Demonic dragon air shattering fist. The burly man roared as his dragon power erupted. An extremely terrifying fist force was released as it charged towards Tianyang's face. Tianyang smiled faintly. A cyan flame rose from Tianyang's fingertip. In an instant, the burly man's fist violently bombarded Tianyang's finger. However, the burly man's expression changed instantly. Clearly, it was just a weak finger. But why did it give him the feeling that it was even more unshakable than a towering mountain? In the next moment, a cyan flame engulfed the burly man. In an instant, the burly man's entire body was ignited by the mysterious azure flame. "Long Yi, get back here!" At this moment, the demon dragon crown prince roared as he waved his hand and pulled the burly man back. At the same time, demonic runes condensed on his right hand as he attacked. The mysterious azure flame burning on Long Yi's body was instantly extinguished. Seeing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Even the mysterious azure flame could be easily dealt with? The demon dragon crown prince's strength was even stronger than he had imagined. However, even so, the skin of the burly man named Long Yi was still burned into layers of charcoal by the mysterious azure flame. Although the true Yuan of a mid-level Saint Realm expert was rapidly recovering, Long Yi's face was still contorted in pain. "Who told you to attack casually?" the demon dragon crown prince said coldly. "Brother Tianyang is my guest. Just a sentence and you have a reason to attack? After you return, go find the Dragon Demon Tower to receive your punishment." Hearing this, Long Yi's face twisted and he could only lower his head helplessly. Yes, at this moment, a charming laugh came from the other black-robed person beside the demon dragon crown prince. Long Yi is still a blockhead. Serves him right for being a mid-level Saint Realm expert. But then again, this time, we have been separated for almost a year. I never thought that young Master Su could leave for so long. Hearing this, Tianyang frowned and Yun Xuanyuan's face changed. Bewitching Lady Linglong? In the next moment, the black-robed person took off her hood, revealing Linglong's seductive face. The saintess of the Xianyuan family actually remembers this little bewitching lady. That's really surprising. Seeing Yun Xuanyuan's expression, Linglong chuckled and Tianyang's eyes revealed a light of understanding. It turned out that the Star Demon Trading Company was the subordinate of the power behind the Demon Dragon Crown Prince. If that was the case, it wasn't impossible for the Star Demon Trading Company to dominate the southern demonic region. Xianyuan family? I have no relationship with the Xianyuan family. Hearing this, Yun Xuanyuan's face turned ugly. When it came to the Xianyuan family, Yun Xuanyuan's hatred was no less than Tianyang's. He had witnessed his parents being captured by Xianyuan Kongming and sacrificed in order to awaken the half-saint emperor ancestor who was in seclusion. The hatred of killing one's parents was irreconcilable. Is that so? Then I'm really sorry. Hearing this, Linglong smiled gently and said, "All right, Linglong, there's no need to speak with that tone everywhere." The Demon Dragon Crown Prince frowned and looked at Tianyang, who was calm and smiled. "I don't know alchemy and I don't have much desire for the Azure Profound Flame. The reason why I stayed here is to find the person who has the Azure Profound Flame," the Demon Dragon Crown Prince said. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. He didn't want the Azure Profound Flame but wanted to find the person who had it? Since Brother Tianyang is the person who has the Azure Profound Flame, then I won't hide it. In fact, my father is seriously injured and urgently needs the azure profound flame to treat him. I came here to invite Brother Tianyang to follow me to the dragon demons to treat my father. Chapter 1354. You want me to save someone? Hearing this, Tianyang's lips curled up. Interesting. Although the azure profound flame was a rank 8 spiritual flame, its destructive power was extremely weak. Instead, it had an extremely powerful life force. Although most of it was used for refining pills, although it was mostly used in alchemy, it could be used to save someone. However, why should I help? You and I have only met once, Tianyang said indifferently. He didn't have any relationship with the demon dragon crown prince at all. Why would he go and save people? Tianyang was too lazy. How can you talk to the crown prince like that? It's your honor to be able to treat the dragon emperor. Long Yi, I don't want to see your ashes now. Just as Long Yi stood up, the demon dragon crown prince's cold voice sounded. On the side, Linglong laughed. Long Yi is indeed Long Yi. He's been cultivating for over 300,000 years, but his brain is still that of an 8-year-old. Linglong, you! Hearing this, Long Yi suddenly roared, but the demon dragon crown prince waved his hand and sealed Long Yi's mouth. That's right. Brother Tianyang, we've only met once, the demon dragon crown prince said with a smile, but there's no rule that says I can't help just because we've only met once. Brother Tianyang, what do you want? Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. So the demonic dragon clan wanted to hire him? I want to kill the half-holy emperor ancestor of the Xianyuan family. Is that possible? If my father recovers to his peak state, a mere half-holy emperor would be as easy as flipping his hand. The demon dragon crown prince said without hesitation. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. It's really possible? However, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. Just now, that guy called Long Yi mentioned the dragon emperor. Could it be that the person you want me to save is a dragon emperor? Saint Emperor. Tianyang's head was about to explode from these two words. A year ago, there was the half-holy emperor ancestor of the Xianyuan family. A few months ago, there was the inheritance of the world-burning demon emperor and the green profound flame saint emperor who was driven crazy by the world-burning demon emperor. Now, there was a dragon emperor who needed the green profound flame to save him? Since when were saint emperors so worthless? However, Tianyang didn't notice it. It wasn't that saint emperors were worthless. Other than being eaten, it was impossible for the fish in the deep sea to come into contact with the birds in the sky. It was just like how a cultivator in the aura illuminating realm would never be able to imagine the power of the martial honorable realm. One's range of contact was related to one's strength. Right now, he could completely come into contact with existences on the level of the Sage Emperor. Dragon Emperor. Dragon Emperor. This name was like thunder in the Xiantian Great World 100,000 years ago. He was the strongest of the dragon demons and also the master of the southern demon ghost region. He fought against heaven and earth and led the southern demon ghost region to challenge the overlord of the central divine continent. If he wasn't born in the wrong era and wasn't born in the chaotic era of the world-burning demon emperor, the dragon emperor wouldn't be much weaker than the world-burning demon emperor. How could he, a guy who wasn't even a great saint, treat such an existence? Was he crazy? Find someone else. I can't treat him. I still want to kill that old dog Xianyuan myself. Tianyang cupped his hands and turned to leave. Let's not talk about how strong the evil Sky Dragon Emperor was. Would he directly slap him to death and take away his dark green mystical flame after he was done with the treatment? The existence that could injure the Dragon Emperor to such a state was clearly also a divine emperor. Tianyang would have to be crazy to offend another divine emperor for a seriously injured one he didn't know. Wait! Seeing Tianyang about to leave, the demon dragon crown prince became anxious. As long as it's within the capabilities of the dragon demons, they will definitely satisfy your request. Not at the moment. Demon Dragon Crown Prince is too polite. Tianyang didn't even turn his head. He still wanted to continue training. If he offended a divine emperor and was slapped to death, what was the point? Young Master Su, can't I beg you? At this moment, Linglong's seductive voice sounded. Not only did Tianyang not slow down, he even sped up. If he turned his head now, Ling Yuhan would definitely chop him up. The dragon demons have a way to let Brother Tianyang's sword embryo transform into a divine emperor weapon. The demon dragon crown prince roared. At this moment, Tianyang's expression finally changed. The great void sword embryo was just a sword embryo. Anyone who had fought with Tianyang before would know that its immature aura could be seen by anyone. However, being able to see it was one thing, and being able to become stronger was another. After being strengthened countless times, the great void sword embryo had been stuck at the high-tier divine emperor weapon level for some unknown reason. No matter how much it devoured, it had no effect. The dragon demons have a way? Although I don't know what's going on with Brother Tianyang's sword embryo, the dragon demons have another fragment of the sword embryo. This fragment is probably half the size of Brother Tianyang's sword. Seeing that Tianyang seemed to be moved, the demon dragon crown prince shouted loudly. Hearing this, Tianyang paused and slowly turned around. The great void sword embryo was so tough that even old ancestor Xianyuan couldn't destroy it. However, the power it could unleash was still insufficient. As Tianyang's strength grew, this weakness became stronger. Originally, there wasn't such a situation because Tianyang hadn't devoured the great void sword embryo to its limit. Now that he had reached the limit, he had to solve it. The only way was to find more fragments. Then I can. Tianyang said faintly. However, I'm only a high-tier saint. If I can't cure the Dragon Emperor, it's none of my business. Of course. Seeing that Tianyang had agreed, the Demon Dragon Crown Prince naturally didn't dare to relax. He immediately brought Dragon 1 and Linglong to Tianyang. Let me introduce myself again. The Demon Dragon Crown Prince took a deep breath and said, I am the Demon Dragon Crown Prince, Delicia. Human Grade Supreme Saint Cultivation. This is my personal bodyguard, Dragon 1 of the Mad Dragon Bloodline. Mid-tier Saint Realm. Physical body of a saint. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. This name was a bit rare. However, physical body of a saint, this was also a bit interesting. The Mad Dragon Bloodline is said to be the dragon bloodline with the strongest physical strength. Yun Xianyuan whispered. Hearing this, Tianyang immediately understood. I'm Linglong. If you're not used to it, you can continue to call me Linglong Demon Girl. Linglong Demon Girl laughed. In terms of strength, human grade Supreme Saint? The Demon Dragon Crown Prince and Linglong Demon Girl were already two Supreme Saints. In addition, there were definitely stronger elders and Dragon Emperor. The strength of the dragon demons was more than just a little stronger than the Xianyuan family. Got it. Tianyang's thoughts flew quickly in his mind, but on the surface, he nodded without batting an eyelid. There's no time to lose. Let's go to the dragon demons immediately. The Demon Dragon Crown Prince said.